Are you? Good. How are you doing? Well. While I sit up in the front as usual, you should be here in 5 minutes, and then we'll start getting everything ready to go.
Been away.
Hey!
You made that terrible slide. You can't even see my.
It'll be brighter when it's going.
My slide. That's terrible.
Well, it's a good slide, except you just can't see the blue at the bottom. Oh, there you go. Now you pop.
Okay.
Now the address popped.
How's it going?
Good. How are you,
Steve?
Hey, Steve, I'm Wade Beavers. Nice to meet you.
Oh, Wade. Good
Yeah.
to see you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, no problem.
You know Tracy.
I don't.
Never officially
Not
met.
yet?
I know of you.
I'm
And
done. I'm
Tracy
good.
Downs.
The event
nice to
is a
meet you.
success.
I know you've met
If the
Hunter.
two of you
your
get a chance to
You
meet.
have.
Yes.
Nice to meet you. That's
So we
great.
have the important things to do. We can give Wade his hat.
Sweet. Love it. Thank you very much. I love it.
Did you see the new versions of it?
No.
See?
Look at that. Oh, you even got a pin on there.
So we're-
oh,
so
nice.
we're-
507.
Yeah, yeah, we're getting there.
Wait, I'm AJ.
Although,
Nice to meet you.
AJ, right? AJ.
Yeah.
I work for Hunter and Tracy, so
this is kind of
Jamie and everyone's raving about you, and I'm like,
strapped Walleye.
I knew Duab back in the day.
Because
Oh.
next year it's like
So-
official
Yeah.
and all
Everything's
the rest
going.
of this.
Going good.
I get to do anything you want this year.
Yeah, that's next year. But you know, that graduation into legit is not, you know, or not that's not legit, but into like the big time. That's not that sad.
I don't know. I don't know.
But you have a plaque? Are you gonna give them a walleye?
Very
I
fun.
don't
So
know.
you have
We'll see.
the ability to just have fun
Next
and
year,
do
do I
things
get to
that
Yeah.
little passion projects or.
Yeah, I mean, I've
Yeah,
done
probably.
some
What are
investments
the-
and
I wanted
other
to see
stuff
these.
that's more passive.
Those are going to be
But I
hard
think
to
I really
stay on
want
the
to
table because they're really back-headed.
Start thinking about what I want to do next.
So the idea
Very
is,
cool.
like, it comes
Good
down
situation.
like this.
Can we just?
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but then
Fantastic.
we'll just constantly.
Yeah. I mean, I did my due
The idea
diligence.
is
It
it's
stayed on for 18 months.
There you go.
6 months longer than I agreed to.
I should have waived your thing. So I'm just concerned it won't stay on the table.
So are you at the Area 10 Labs? Okay.
Yeah. So they brought me on as basically to make everyone look pretty online.
Okay.
And
I was seeing if we could do this to be when the Walleyes had a question.
Ah! Great idea.
Not sure we're able to implement it properly.
That is
You're on the
so
software
funny.
interface side.
More
You have too
on
much
video
fun.
production,
Oh,
social
got it.
media, design.
Got all that.
No.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was,
Yeah, and then just business development because I've been working with
I gotta do something like
contracting with
that.
the Center for Innovation for 4 years, so I built a really good network of people in healthcare innovation. So lines up with what they're doing.
Yeah.
So trying to bring work in, and then we started a screen printing shop in the basement for fun because why not, and
Yeah.
all those kind of things. So
Yeah. I just happened. Actually, Hunter just gave us a quote on something we just requested. So I've invested in a company called Ubody.
okay,
And we're doing some design stuff. So
very cool.
So yeah, so it's got us really good quotes. I think you guys will be able to do it for us, which would be good.
That's
So,
I tell people I work with mad scientists because it's just such a great environment. No 2 days are alike, and everything's just a good. We're always on the edge of not knowing what we're doing,
right.
kind of
Which
feeling.
is nice to come in the office, like, to be honest. I
Yeah.
mean, you kind of feel like not having to be in a situation where you're down the road.
Yeah, like I don't want to grow up and do TPS reports for the rest of my life.
Yep.
You know, it's just like screen printing thing too. Is like for Steam, the guy who was doing it started changing designs without telling them and printing them, and then expecting to get paid. And they're like,
Yeah.
I'm like, I could figure it out. Watching YouTube videos,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
a couple months later, I'm like, that was a dumb idea.
Yeah.
I need a business.
But I found this great graph about, oh yeah, I could totally do that. Then there's the pit of despair. Then it's like, oh, you start figuring it out, and
Oh my gosh.
thank you.
Well, it's always funny when you listen to something new, you're excited about it. You start to go, okay,
That's what's really
harder than I thought.
You start seeing the depths of how much you don't know, and you go, oh,
And the answer is there is never a yes.
fast.
Yeah.
That's not
No, it's true. It's true. I always, in fact, everybody I've hired that's come on, I always say, if you've been with a big organization, probably
It's sort of true. It's sort of true.
Just, they're basically not
Yeah.
ready to make a decision.
because every day is different.
The one they
And then you should
I
probably
helped
stay
get it.
larger.
It's secure.
You gotta build that up yourself. Sometimes people will say, I really long for that because they don't like me not.
Florida
But
and Mayo.
then they realize when they get this environment. And during my whole time, we've only had one.
That's
And that
awesome.
whole time. And that was one that I knew
That fun.
was probably better fit for a structured environment.
Well, it's kind of like when Steam put out their leaked their employee handbook. You know, they invest so much of the time just hiring the right people that they don't worry about all the mess down the road of
You
turn.
know, you don't if you can get that attitude. It's just much better. Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you.
Better.
Yeah.
Look who's here.
Let's go.
How are you doing?
I'm going to give you a hug.
Likewise. I feel like life got busy in the middle between when we had our
What is that?
That's just
Board to get together again.
Ah,
It was supposed to be.
Timer?
No, when you come in there and you're ready to ask questions. Moment. It's just.
You're presenting, right?
nice.
Can I just have you sign the Mayo?
Oh, sure.
Print, sign, date.
Oh,
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Julie Henry.
That's part of all the stuff that's happening.
Sure.
Afterwards. Oh, this is one of the walls. Hi, John. Good. How are you?
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Well, I think when they were inspired.
Perfect.
No, I've been just
Just gathering your
rushing around in meetings and all sorts of stuff today.
I got your hat. All right. See you soon.
No, but I'm excited because last year was good, and there was like 3 of them where I'm like, you could just tell, maybe, but there was a few that you're just like, okay. I always like when I meet people where they give you the pitch and you're like, why isn't this on the market already?
No, and it's funny. You might find that somebody did try it, and sometimes it's not even the original idea.
Well, Hunter got me with the screen printing with the. I was ready to throw in the towel because I had gone through 3 people that were artists,
Yeah.
and they just flaked on me all the time.
So
And
did you buy the screen thing?
Tracy and Kaya, who co-own Steam, just put up a couple thousand to get all the equipment, and yeah, I started running it that way.
I should talk to you.
Yeah.
Some good ones in development. Really, the thing is,
No, that's great.
Well, so I started a Shopify RochesterMade.mn,
yeah.
and in a way, I'm working with trying to. Well, but it's like a little local Etsy for all of Rochester creative people. And the idea was to say, all right, you pay me $100, I'll make a screen, have it sitting there.
Yeah.
When a shirt order comes in, we'll print and deliver it to you, and you pay per shirt, so they don't have to worry about inventory.
So you're trying to do it from that perspective now.
Because with the way we have inventory set up, the vendor we use, they have a warehouse in Illinois. If we order by 4 p.m. today, it'll be here by 10 tomorrow morning.
Got it.
And if we need ink, we can order from Minneapolis, have it same day delivered.
Okay.
So we have to have 0 stock of anything until orders come in.
well, that's how it always goes. And then it floods. So, congratulations on
That is the way to do it.
Yeah, it's been really nice to keep. And the thing with Hunter, his thing was the 6 feet from gold, like
Yeah.
that analogy, and I was like, I know there's something here with it because there's not much.
There are,
in town.
especially small runs. Quickly.
Like this was done with dye sublimation this morning, so it's just basically a fancy iron-on that's
Yeah.
professional.
Yeah.
And if you can get those, I mean, one-offs cost nothing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, because that's really what Captive Press was doing. Their process when initially started.
Oh yeah, I remember. I used to use that when I used to be a youth pastor. I used that to raise funds for the ministry.
Yeah, because your markup is there.
So I will then have a speaker.
Introduce yourselves. Exactly. Yeah. And we found this great vendor too for the apparel that they buy in bulk from the manufacturers and sell them off as one-offs.
Right? So before.
Helen Campus, American Apparel, Next Level.
Fernando.
They're still around, so I'm not sure.
Their CEO got ousted.
Are you excited, Christine?
Bought the assets.
Oh, I think
That I don't know, because I've only been in this for 6 months, so
Because they used to have tons of retail shops.
yeah.
So I think I haven't asked about this for hours.
Yeah, the thing that I've heard from people, and another thing that I tried doing that's actually differentiating is live screen printing at an event. So set up a little
Yellow walleyes.
table. I'm working with Abe Sauer, the old Abe coffee.
Oh, sure.
So he's got a trike bike that we're going to build a screen printing press on for the farmers market and just do shirts to order when people come on. Have 4 different designs. So people can come see it. Kids love to watch it. And,
Yeah, the process itself.
yeah. So
You guys have the old spinner.
yeah,
It's
full manual.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, we have like a 20 by 20 space. I mean, the automated ones would be like you need 50 by 50 easily, just to move around
We
it.
did it. So when I was in college, I did the screen. Just I did a sporting
Member of the entrepreneurial community.
Yeah,
They had, they made it. It's really funny. They didn't sell much. So
Probably seen Julie's ventures, but one day a week she belongs to the office all day long. Which is part of the new
office of entrepreneurship. Yeah.
so far we've got it down where we can do single and double color, but past that we got to buy some a little bit more professional equipment to get multicolor prints going.
But I
We're doing things now, but on January 1 officially, yes.
Yeah.
Our biggest run to date's been like
Harry's on his
150
way.
shirts, so wasn't like when I was talking to the
John,
lady at
John's
the
here.
Northwest Graphic, she goes,
Here.
"Oh well, if you use this kind of ink, you could usually knock out about 100 shirts per hour." I'm like, "I'm doing 50, and I'm hustling."
Silver at.
She's like, "Oh, you're not
I
doing
said
automated
she's,
screen printing?"
yeah, I've seen her.
No,
She's
we're
over.
manual.
Yeah, she's still over there.
And it worked out. We had office hours. We just had to do more explicit value. All volume play. Thanks to
But yeah, and I'm trying to drive it more towards the shirts that we make are those softer 50-50 blends, which are like 4 times more than the cheap paints. And
you guys always get 100% feedback from the teams that made these groups.
I thought it was very interesting.
It gives you kind of a preview of what you're going to be seeing this afternoon.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't give them a lot of time to obviously make an adjustment or do a change.
Right.
Obviously, their presentation for sure, but it's so beneficial.
I do. If nothing else, you plant some seeds that then they can acknowledge if they want to.
yeah. Well, and the thing is too, I saw an
Whether it
ad
helps the presentation.
over the summer for 5K
It's
races
all
from some
about-
shop that I've never heard of. They're like, it's $4 a shirt, single color,
Yeah.
light,
Other
blah,
people
blah, blah,
do
and all of these like addendums. I'm
By
like, that
asking
is the
just some specific
scratchiest,
questions about the
cheapest shirt you can
technology.
find at $4 a shirt. You're
Look
not.
at. Maybe that's something I should look at or think
Yeah.
about. Or,
I don't want to do the race to the bottom. That's just, you'll never win.
Tractor.
And then hey, welcome. And then we have new this year is we have
We have done a few
this
100%
has
poly shirts,
3 feeders.
and
So 4 at all.
it's not bad.
So
The thing that I didn't know at the time was making sure you had the
have
right kind of
Mayo Clinic
plastic ink.
Rochester.
Yeah,
That
that's what I
was
was wondering. It's
University of Minnesota.
I had.
because I'm trying to shift it all to plastisol ink now because
They
you don't need
had
to
alligator
do any water to clean the screens off. It's
that-
not going to dry out the
that
screen.
sort
It's
of-
just a little
I was
easier now
not able to.
because they've really changed the chemistry behind it. So you can get stuff that's specifically for the 50-50 blend shirts, 100% cotton.
We have 2 teams.
So you match it all up with exactly your need.
Rochester qualified.
So it's come a long way since the water-based thing,
I was in meetings that morning.
and it's
And then we had
Out of
the
a couple nights, I didn't go.
so much nicer.
Well, him, I love his idea.
Right.
So do I.
That's why I was wondering about.
So
And he
we'll
has
have,
it.
you know,
You know, I talked to him about
politics or what's on Facebook.
Great.
Just like, I don't understand. Mayo paid to have the teams.
cool idea.
Yes.
So there's no
He
barrier.
doesn't have a product yet.
Yeah,
It's always Arizona.
but it doesn't, like, you go online, it's $185 setup fee. Just to even print. And
Correct.
my wife runs the
these
Rochester
because
Moms
I
blog.
used to do
So she was looking on stuff and she's like,
So that's our.
In the middle of it.
yeah, but
I
wait
know.
till you check out in the setup
Yeah,
fee.
they have. Harry lost his hat and like.
And I'm like, I'm trying to build that into the margins and then just say like, it's
He lost his hat.
get the screen ready. Like,
First, it was like
not $185 because that's just insane.
Yeah. Well,
What's it? Is the 507 just stand for the area code?
yes.
Got it.
And the nice thing too is I can order
Cool.
screens from a place in San Francisco
All right.
that come pre-emulsion and all I gotta do is burn it. We're way to go.
Carlos to be here. I'll give you.
And they, yeah. I mean, it's cheaper for me to buy it from San Francisco
We'll
than
have
the place in the cities.
well, we have more.
So it's
out. So we're going to
been
have more
bonkers.
discussion. Probably, maybe not. But I'm guessing we have more discussion. So we have the bait shops, and then remember Go Audio. So
Yes,
yeah,
right.
so
Yeah, that
she's
they
going to
won.
give us a
yeah.
update.
Update of where she's at.
Could do a week turnaround time. They freak out. Like it was funny too because Chad is
On silent now before I forget.
he's like asking all this stuff yesterday to make sure. So I'm like, you want them tomorrow? You're gonna have to get what you get because we only have so much in the shop that we can do.
Yeah.
Hi, John. I'm Julie Henry. Nice to meet you.
Good to know.
Hi, nice to meet you, John.
This is what you meant by that. Those are nice. Cool. So just grab a seat here.
Yep, right in front. Harry's on his way.
Yeah, yes, still to keep bouncing.
Yeah.
Tiene sample?
So. We have 3 categories this time. So I'll do an update. I know Carla. It's office hours, so she'll be here.
Yeah, I mean, if it's
He's a regular.
Things move.
we can just go on to
No, we don't have breaks, right?
Don't worry about is my
They're the only ones we don't
parking
have.
space.
So
Ends at 422. I'm wondering how.
I only met with him yesterday.
I'm like, I was like,
That's the last thing I leave for. I have every other presentation.
Yes.
because this always happens.
Just like you know,
Yes.
Nothing. They stopped checking at 5 o'clock anyways.
No, so you worry, you just hope there's no overzealous
Right.
parking person. So I'm
Friday.
going to nail everyone at 4:50.
Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
So, how's life been over at,
Yeah, it's gonna be.
how's business been?
It's gonna be a videotape and go online. I don't know if they're gonna stream it live, but I know last year's
Okay.
conference launched now out online on YouTube. Yeah. So I don't know if they're streaming it live. That's what I don't know.
Conference. And information research.
That's really good.
Yes.
Um,
Took my glasses off.
Yeah, no, I haven't on raised capital now, so
You know his dad?
I've been getting ready
Yeah.
to
So he might be here.
Okay,
Sorry. Anyway.
up all my maybe.
Just
Let's
maybe.
see. Yeah, I mean, he does.
Fun.
He does a little more high tech, but he does the same stuff as I do too. So these are, as I said, that the product that we are developing is
Me too.
Yeah, last year at this time, it was like a horrendous snowstorm.
Yes.
not an extremely
Driving back,
say,
it was
stunning technological.
Christine's here and Wade's here. Yes.
I think it is
Carla, there's one more that's not
a
here.
very interesting
That must be Perry.
application. Very simple technology. So it may or
early season snow.
Well,
I
I haven't
didn't
missed one of them yet.
Oh, it's not going to technologically wow
Walleye
anybody.
hat. I didn't know that they had two.
It is, but I think if it works, it really addresses a problem that there is really no solution.
That worked out pretty well.
That's it.
It's a little bit longer.
How are you?
It's just
See you.
Good to see you. Hey, I remembered that you lost your hat, so
Well, remember that I had two,
yes.
and I would have been
Oh,
here
there-
5
you
minutes
grabbed?
earlier,
Oh,
but
you grabbed
I
it?
left it in the
That's
car
good.
and went back.
It is a stud finder.
It's just stud finder.
Yeah, it
No,
blew
it's Carlos.
off
Carlos hat.
Name, that would have been a perfect name for that.
He also said
on my way
get a
down.
lot of traction.
Feel free.
There you go.
I'm going to talk a little bit with you guys while Carla finds her way here. So Carla is patriot of the University of Minnesota and now runs the event for the campus campus, so we'll have one in the spring. So that heads up. We are the whole purpose of this is a part of celebrating the entrepreneurial community, right? And so these pitches, although they're fun and everything, it's just kind of a honeypot. So we had wonderful office hours this morning with a series of some of the teams, right? You guys had, you went through like 6 office hours, so various people. And from my point of view, that's a huge, wonderful learning experience. Then we have the event today, and then we'll have the post-event afterwards. But then my goal is to help provide the resources so that we can continue. So this is just does that make sense for everybody? So I want to thank everybody for coming. I really appreciate it. I know that Fernando was, you were in Europe until a few hours ago, right? So appreciate coming. There will be coffee. The process is we're going to have a quick intro. Julie's going to actually welcome everybody from the point of view of the Mayo Clinic Ventures side. I'll ask you all to introduce yourselves. I'll just go through the microphone, and then we'll kick off with our presentations. Ironic, we have everybody but our lead on. We're almost done with all the presentations. We have 3 classes this time. So we discussed this very actively in the Minneapolis event, and for many reasons we did this time. And one of the reasons is that we have some teams from Mayo Clinic Florida that went through a qualifying round called Alvear. There were 8 teams. And then the top 3 were considered worthy or recommended, and Mayo flew up to this event. So that's just an example of us. We have teams that went through a qualifying round at the University of Minnesota. We had a formal qualifying round in Mayo Clinic in Rochester that was run by Christine from the St. Mary's with Julie as our judges. And then there's an open application that was closed on November 20th. So those are, so people recommended teams, but there was that process. So we will have Mayo Clinic Arizona kicking in 2018. Will also be a feeder
So are all the junior anglers, are those all the ones that came from Mayo Clinic, and are these all pre-revenue,
Okay. Yeah, so the criteria for, let's talk about professionals. The criteria for professionals are, it's either they are a functioning business. For example, we have the Superior Medical Editing is a business. They actually are profitable, right? So it's an example. We have Scott Nyberg's Artificial Liver is a company that's been a company idea that's been around for many years, but it hasn't become a business. But it's many years in the making. Okay? Those are the professionals. We have MindTech. It's actually got a product. This is their first product presentation. Although the prototype was presented in one of our prior events. Okay.
Would those professionals, all those, are they seeking revenue? They're seeking funding still or not?
So
that's a question we're going to ask.
What they are asking for is up to them.
Okay.
The middle teams all they've had some sort of a substantive traction. Okay, they may have made a device that's actually touched people, or they have some sort of fundamental traction. The reason I say that is that the junior anglers, so like Brazen didn't exist 8 weeks ago.
Got it.
Those are the brand new ones.
They're new ideas.
They're really much more early stage, early teams, or whatever.
Still prototyping.
Pre-prototype.
Right. So Brazen, for example, is only 6 teams. Only one, 2 would have qualified, and one I was presenting. So from my teams. So that's just giving you so there's been a filter in the process. So we have the presentation in the reverse order of experience. Perfect. Everybody is still coached on the 5 rubrics. What's your problem? What's your solution? Why you? What's your team? Why now? And then why it's a business. And so those are still the top 5 questions. I'm not going to change the rubric, but how you weigh those 5, how well they judge, and how that's going to be up to you guys. So we have that's the nuts and bolts. What we have new is that we now have new prizes to award. So we in the spring we have a deal with Minnesota Cup for semifinal for at least 2 of the classes, and I think that's still true, but Minnesota Cup was not a director's leaving. We'll have to rebuild it. We have our last bootstrapping walleye. So we have a top prize. That top prize is $2,000 cash from Byron. We have 3 months of Collider workspace for the company, for the business. We have Frederickson and Byron is going to offer what is essentially another $1,000 of legal behind. And then I'm calling it the Office of Entrepreneurship Platinum section, which is priority to basically go into the Mayo Clinic Rolodex, whatever that is. Okay, the kind I don't value. So, because we're inventing this all, that's new, but that's what we have. That's the top prize.
Is that for the professional?
So okay, so that's for the
that's for the professional.
For the professional.
Okay, and that's the top prize. All of that comes with the top prize.
That comes with the top prize. The Frederickson and Byron will offer a second class. For example, if that's what the junior angler needs. So let me take a step back. What I would really like to do is help all of these ideas move forward. So what I really want is make your jobs really hard in the future, where I give you a whole list of menu options of things that you can then match make with these businesses. And so, we have more this time. We'll continue to have more. Hopefully, because in the spring, hopefully, we'll also have the Minnesota Cup, right? We talked about last time at the end. The deciding factor for who won was the business that would the most benefit from winning, right? And so, really, you should think about what are the businesses. I have 2 more prizes that are actually really like substitute. And these can grow. Mayo Clinic, for a Mayo Clinic based effort, is offering 2 prizes. Okay, from Mayo Clinic Rochester and Mayo Clinic Florida. And it's $10,000 of a Mayo Clinic PAU cash. Okay. So we have a promise from Mayo Clinic for up to $50,000 total. Mayo Clinic Arizona, Mayo Clinic Care Network,
Was it the health system?
whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so we just don't have the applicants for those other classes. But in the future, we're hoping to be able to keep reading.
Which
So-
are the
yeah, so here's
Arizona ones?
So Thorx, Concepts by Harshman, and this one, the electronic intrathecal guidance. Those are all Florida.
Oh, those are all Florida. Oh, yeah,
Yes.
sorry.
And
So one of those 3 can be awarded $10,000.
yes,
Yes.
Brazen is a hybrid, but there's a team in Rochester. Liver cell therapies, Rochester. Am I missing anybody? I think that's it.
That's
Those
it.
are the 2.
There's 2 Rochester and 3 Florida.
First and last.
right.
So who we can talk about?
The other ones can win.
The other one's going to
This
win
other-
the big prize.
Okay.
What I want to
Brazen
do
and
is
liver
think
cell.
about,
It's Rochester based.
and then we have the Frederickson and Byron second legal offer. So trying to make it, I am making it a little hard. I should be more clear, but I learned exactly what I had an hour.
So what does the second legal offer come with?
It's
John
roughly
Santini.
$1,000.
It's very possible.
So that's not part of the top prize. That's a second.
There's a second one in addition to the one that.
Oh. So there's a top, and then there's a second place. It gets another
And I'm also a co-founder of
1K in kind. So there's a second one in that bucket.
Ruben Harris, Dan Harkine.
Oh, I know. Yeah. People will know
Got it.
You know Ruben?
very well.
Oh, yeah, here.
Hopefully it's a good thing.
Yes.
Almost
We can
everybody.
be creative from the office of entrepreneurs.
Yes.
It turns out that we
Yeah, so Ruben, Dan, and I founded
office
Ape.
of entrepreneurs.
Yes.
I don't know.
Well,
Whole packet.
we're trying to make
So
make some use out of actually Ruben's IP, but it
I'm trying to make
hasn't
something good and
been very
The
productive.
platinum
So
one you're going up with is going up in that top prize.
Yes.
Whoever wins
Yes.
is getting that piece
Yes.
of it.
But if there's a gold one that
and
That we would give them what?
yeah. I don't know.
Okay. We can think about that?
better livestock. Though I think our basin holds
Okay.
the growing human.
Any questions? I'm just trying to.
is.
So they're going to present and
Yeah.
get questions or sit down?
Yeah. So they're going to
And
present.
so,
Carl, you see the
You know,
timer?
there's a terrific potential benefit that most people won't appreciate about the apex.
They're really everywhere. I taught and trained a 2-minute
I'll be watching.
drill for their presentation. These are all the junior.
What do you view as
They have
that?
2 minutes.
All the Mayo ones, they all know.
Because we're
5 minutes total. It'll turn yellow after the first 2 minutes. And then there's 2 minutes of yellow, and then it starts to kind of.
Red, the yellow, orange, red. It's supposed to be questions.
Supposed to be. A lot of people will lead into the yellow, but you don't want to. If there's a few people that have gone all the way to orange in the presentation, this just doesn't go over well.
Then you don't get any. You don't have any
Yeah,
time
and,
for anything.
and I'm pretty. I don't interrupt a Walleye's question, but I don't usually let the next question go.
Okay.
Problem.
It's not like it's like no.
Right, and this is.
Investors.
But there's of course the after event gathering for people to talk afterwards. Right, this is more speed dating. This is more speed dating. Right, the competition is a bonus. It's really all about speed. It's all senses of audience get a chance. So you guys, many of your questions are really reflecting what the audience needs to hear.
And in our case, for the viruses that were most.
There's tons of education.
So,
Want to be or a friend.
with that said, you know,
Beeping. Sometimes my email comes through.
to build layers.
There are the bathrooms are you can find your bathrooms on either say the left or right. There are bathrooms on both sides. we'll have a break with coffee and snacks coming.
What brings you here? How do you know Steve?
And
Then we deliberate while the bait shops.
yes, and then the bait shops will go. And I've extended this a little bit because I was thinking that we might have more deliberations. But maybe it's really clear. Screen's working.
So 5 minutes exactly.
Yes.
And then how much for questions?
No, that's 2 minutes.
Oh, 2 minutes for the pitch.
And then 5 minutes. They have 5 minutes.
Okay.
The goal is that they present in about 2 minutes, and then there's time for questions.
Right.
That doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
But they have 5 minutes.
Everybody shut down.
It works fairly well.
Good.
And we have 2 microphones here. And just because I can't quite get it to fund, I find it kind of funny. I tried to get it. But not quite working this time. But spirit is there. So
I feel like we need to go old school tip-up timer in the future.
there you go.
You don't see anybody with fish.
Different flags, different colors. It's fine. Good. How are you?
10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go find out the first presentation.
One's Christine and one's Julie. Have we
I'm
met?
Christine. I don't believe so.
Okay, I'm very happy.
Hi, Barry. I'm Julie Henry. I don't believe we've met either.
Glad to meet you all.
It's my fun. I work in Milk Clinic Ventures.
But I have credentials for this.
Oh, that are presenting?
Discovery Genomics is not a startup company. House and it's already been acquired.
On the phone when we were talking the other day about that meeting with Dr. Tim Nelson's project.
I'm sorry.
Said, were you on the phone when we were talking with Dr. Tim Nelson? No? Okay.
No,
That
I
project?
know about Tim and I know about all my projects. It's of a co-founder of the company.
Yeah, I'm working on that agreement with legal and Dr. Nelson.
So how does it work?
Yeah, Jim.
I think we're very close. Matter of figuring out the protocol now.
Okay.
Sure, it's pretty much down to that.
I badmouthed guys.
Did you?
About a year and
What'd we do?
15 years.
I know everyone.
What'd we do?
Well, it's what you told me.
Blended in and she was standing right there.
Yeah. You can't recognize me from the back?
Started.
Oh, you're there.
Oh, okay.
Can't take the lead.
Well, that's one of my undergrad students.
Yeah, it's because they were hatched yesterday. Or
Oh, yeah.
breeding yesterday, I should say.
Why I could go to Monterey.
Call pick it. Do you need me to have Mercury one?
Hmm?
And do you have another dish
Yeah.
to put in?
And
We have a smaller dish. We could do
Okay.
a transfer of a few of them maybe.
Okay.
And either that or just put the big one on
Yeah,
because the stand takes both.
very local
Bring that along.
that take the lead. And
Okay.
I was just down here 6-7 weeks ago. Like yesterday. But without shots. That's a pipe dream. That's not going to happen. You got to get people to stand up. So,
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you.
I'm really trying to spur biotech here in Minnesota.
Oh,
Hi, Alan. I'm Ray Beavers. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
That's my full-time job. But this is what I spent all my time behind the scenes.
Yeah?
Since conflict of interest. Boy, I like all this gadgets. I thought I saw that one last time. Maybe I did.
No?
No, I'm sure I did. No?
Something similar.
I saw it somewhere, yeah.
We actually meet at work.
What are you doing?
This is not the same camera.
Deliberate
You know what?
on all these people. And
At 4. So while these guys talk about sort of their
Just letting
general
know.
services,
Have a pet on you, would you?
spaces for startups, we go to conference room. Are you?
You know what? I wouldn't doubt Jamie or having one. What? It wouldn't surprise me if you did have a.
we're supposed to judge them on
You got an entrepreneur pulling
how
his
well
The one day you're not carrying a
decked
pipe.
out, getting ready to show.
not necessarily what they're looking for.
All right, Carla, for your hat.
Well, you can,
A spread of expertise.
if you don't mind,
Worry terribly about the
and some would.
I'm delighted. I don't mind.
Well, in the era of Harvey Weinstein, Al Franken.
You want me to start invading your space a little here?
I actually got our
Around would be the better thing.
Yeah, it does look better.
So I am getting ready to.
It was the very first day with the deck.
Sit on this row.
I put that together.
I'll be interested to learn.
Not as much change
And it's just that a variety of
reviewers.
personal
Let's see inappropriate.
home
All right.
Awesome.
forces.
My name's Nick. So
Hey, Nick, Ryan
Real
Ross.
name
Nice to
inappropriate.
meet you.
Nice to see you.
Wow.
That's actually a good mic.
I'll be getting something out
Yeah, it's not like.
because I really want to get moving.
I'm talking with Matchek and
But when it happens,
Siba.
you know. Like it's yeah. Yeah, he had.
That's the next step.
My son's games are right there. That'd be great. Thanks.
Actual.
If I start to like
I've been so far
fall over asleep or something.
Retro
now.
Crazy.
What do you do every day? Good sir. Now and
I am a corporate lawyer.
Yeah, his brother.
Ferguson and Byron first.
I have.
It's like Anne, but not. Well, everyone chooses their path.
That's right. That's
I
right.
didn't say hi to you before.
That's right.
Carl, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carlo.
Have yourself a card.
Yeah, I do.
I swing around from the front.
Am I in the junior?
Yeah.
So same shit, different level.
Mid or
Yeah, because we did we sit at the same table for dinner?
medical editing.
I think we did for
What
dinner,
did they
and
say?
then also I was there a little bit earlier in the day with people.
How to practice a finger.
Yeah.
What else do I need?
Do your worst, and we'll help you clean it up.
Wait, so I'm competing.
There's a partnership waiting to happen.
Exactly.
I know.
Oh, geez, am I out?
In the last 5 years.
No, that's not all set for.
I don't have a
better,
battery. All right.
You can get one?
Oh, there we go.
I didn't
I
get
got
one.
one still. Got your name on it. Oh, me.
Oh, where's the
Scooch back. Did you do a logo?
Nope.
Why are these so squishy?
medical writing?
Uh-huh.
Should have done a rod of Asclepius rather than a caducus.
Oh, that's cool though with the pen and
Well, I can just.
Yeah, I suppose
Kind
that
of old
could be.
school here.
Gliders.
What do you
It's
charge?
all right. That's all right. That's all right.
The prizes are
Like for a mobile.
Prizes.
down from the cities then, or?
I am, yeah. So I drove down this morning. I get down. I've got a couple clients down here, and we actually have some space. I think it's lighter.
Here today. I've seen him twice.
Everything ready? A couple of my partners come down, and maybe the one or two of them.
But I saw him in the Skyway twice today, so I know he's on campus
Done every
somewhere.
couple of weeks. The last 3 or 4 years, with Jamie and
We
a
get
few
two
others, we've represented.
I came in Wednesday.
Heard of that.
I was meeting some of the.
Yeah,
How many
but
tickets
everybody
were
down
there?
here. And then
I hope it's
That's the audience, or is that doesn't include the teams?
more aggressively and started this program.
All right,
I have
let's not worry
some
about it.
buddies that are lawyers here in town.
Okay.
Dave Peterson.
I know there's some people from our office that said they're going to pop in and out. They have some things, they have meetings, and they're going to come in when they can and not be.
I'm a securities lawyer. So I chair our securities department. So it was sort of a natural fit, and then we kind of just expanded that relationship and have maybe half a dozen clients. And
For next April.
yeah, it's good stuff. Are you a lifelong Rochester guy?
I am not. I'm from Madison, Wisconsin.
Oh, cool. My wife went to. Everybody I know went to college there. Probably my wife, my best
Do they
friend.
remember it?
State Street and all.
Probably my best friend from law school. Probably not.
It's
You know, it's a lovely town. They have these things called lakes. Have those here? Yeah.
That grow up there, want to go to school there, or typically go to school there?
So the question is,
That's a really good question.
so they're actually very
I want to say no.
I can imagine that with that institution just kind of being so
Sick of downtown by ice cream.
Yeah.
And so,
but they do have some
I
really
don't
good
know what
opportunities.
So I don't know what Mike's.
Some people do specifically for.
Oh boy, it might be his
I
time.
grew up in a very small town, but 20 miles west of Lincoln, Nebraska, and then went to undergrad in Lincoln. And yeah, it's just
Well, there's several
large land grant university.
The beginning and
A lot of
the end.
benefits from it.
4 days at the beginning.
I'm gonna stay the whole afternoon.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm gonna stay there for all the sessions.
Probably, I'm not sure.
So they have 4 different
Probably
locations.
going to leave at 3.
Because I still can't get this one. Send that away.
But the reason I bring it up to you is
Cool. We have a logo.
Yeah.
I had the impression that
Yeah, I am a parent of a 2 and a 4-year-old, both girls.
You're not allowed to have
So
that.
I don't do anything. I do nothing.
If you were to hobby for a day, what would you do?
Binge watch television,
wanna
I guess, is my biggest hobby.
right, you don't want to undermine
Crime, drama, comedy, what's your style?
Whatever's new, whatever's bingeable, I guess. What I'm watching right now. Finally gave in and started watching Stranger Things, I guess.
How do you like it?
To relax.
Okay, yeah, it's good. I mean, I can get it. I'm not a big sci-fi guy, but
Either.
but this one
Kind of a dance.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of
Because
it.
you're what, 32?
You know, it's funny because I read the news recently that in China,
So you
their
kind of
name
grew up
had
in
like a
that.
funny meaning, and they're like just
The aspect of it really
survey.
resonates.
It would change
a little bit
Congratulations.
old for
Looking
me,
forward to seeing you.
but the cars
Yeah,
and
because
stuff.
Never seen you actually.
I don't know how.
Yeah, no, I think
It's
that's.
not
I
kids
play golf.
probably parents.
Still acting president
For this
of
team,
Like
there's
stuff.
no.
I used to travel.
That's the thing, and then the thing is that they said there's like no Chinese word for marriage, but then
Yeah, wife and
reason
kid,
it was
we
being
travel
used
a
in
lot.
a like a very wrong context.
Not traveled much since we've had.
Like really Chinese name for it.
All right.
I told my
Yeah, Nathan Stacy and Jeff Torberg. Yep. They were both in
things
showing
are going
matches
really
at
well.
one point in time.
We've
And
been traveling a lot.
yeah.
So we
It have been going really bad this year.
Brought
We've
this
been traveling
guy.
too much.
We travel only to see family.
It's all those years.
Yeah, but he doesn't play that.
2016.
So you're seeing
Just got back like 2 days ago.
Yeah, but I think he plays for the Chinese.
I'm not
Yeah.
started scratching the surface of my emails that I've missed. So
I would pay $20 if it
I'm
was
gonna
on
try
my
and build a
phone.
couple hours right now.
Right? Okay, good.
So
You gotta try it out.
There's one in the Rockets,
I tried it.
tall guy, like super.
Really, it's like terrible.
But there's a new one.
Minneapolis. Yeah. I came up here
Retired.
17 years ago to go to law school and
I can't.
never left.
I feel like I must be like when my kids were
Well, if you've got time on Monday, I'm up
It's
there.
one syllable, but I can
Yeah, it'd
do
be
it.
great to catch up for lunch. That'd
They
be
crossed a
fantastic.
few times.
Yeah, oh yeah. I've been through it on both sides,
Yeah.
and I've done a lot of my time at News Cycle. The acquisition.
Oh, so you guys are all.
Oh, okay.
Guy, super.
Pretty interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
I heard.
Get a prize.
From their different portfolio.
Bragging rights.
Okay.
We're in the.
I mean, there's so many.
We should be in the.
Yeah.
I've been on both sides.
That counts for
I'll
something.
do the work on
The thing is that it's like kind of frustrating because I'm really bad playing basketball.
And it was said.
but I love it. I love it. How about you? Have any favorite sport?
I'm not good at any sport, but
Okay.
I do enjoy kind of sport.
Anything specific? Space you love?
Yeah, I mean, he was a professor at interesting.
I really enjoy basketball, tennis, baseball, volleyball too. It's kind of big in Puerto Rico.
Some of them. But and I was supposed to present here.
I resent this. Why did this happen?
That's why he knows about the technology.
Last year or two.
$80.
All right.
Jamie,
It could be worse.
what am I supposed to do? I got this 400.
What is it supposed to represent?
Oh, no, now I got it. Now I got it. Never mind.
That's exactly what you should do.
That's it.
You say
And then we
never
can
mind.
Photoshop.
Oh yeah. Take it out. Okay. And I'd walk up to him and they go, "Oh, never mind. I fixed it." And I'm like, "That's exactly what I bring."
Just think about it. We should take a peek.
And then we Photoshop.
Yeah, Photoshop with Jason.
Yeah.
So why would you attend something?
It has meaning, but
You hang out at the Collider a lot?
I have an office at a really think about it. And then second to that, I enjoy getting to know the people that know things I don't know.
Yeah, that's just that. I mean, I said that to there's not a lot of rewarding aspects
It's like a
to
real
my
life
job.
Google.
But yeah, it's cool.
I always go to those people and say, "Oh, I don't know this." Explain this.
Good.
Yeah. I was actually going to prep you for a question.
Hello? Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our walleye tank, our fourth one, the ice fishing edition here.
I'll give that some thought.
Last year when we did this, we had, 10 inches of snow, so appreciate the better weather for our travelers. I just want to welcome everybody here. We are having a fun event. It continues to grow with interest and with opportunities for our entrepreneurs. And I have a few things to talk about just briefly for those that are not familiar with sort of the process. So our teams have all been qualified because they've answered these questions. What's the problem? What's the solution? Why us? Why now? And how is it a business? Those are 5 questions for the rubric. And I'm just going to point out why we have Walleye Tank. We have Walleye Tank because of issues like this. So in October of last year, under the politically positive environment for science, we hit a 60-year low of funding for research in this country. And at the same time, there's actually never been more private capital available that's not even gathering interest. So sometimes I'll say the cheese has moved, right? It's a fundamental scenario where we're operating under, okay? And the point of Walleye Tank is to build this ecosystem, right? We celebrate where we have sponsors and supporters, our bait shops, so you're hearing about them, to help if you've got a really interesting, novel idea that's going to change the world, how we bring it to the world. These are our wonderful sponsors. I want to thank them. They've all contributed for this event. And we will highlight our current business startups. You'll see those today. And everything is done under this idea of the 120-second pitch with Q&A, so 5 minutes. Just give you the format. Okay. Carla Pavone you'll meet her in a second, from the University of Minnesota, has a series of students. I have students from my case studies class, but we also have open competition, and most of the presenters are from this open competition through multiple portals. Just for you, it's been fun. I can't believe it. We're having 4. The first one was in June of last year. I think traction is good. Okay. I'm just going to answer briefly for those why here? Why is Minnesota a big deal? It's the highest density of MDs in the world, and yet we're within driving distance of 3 of the top 25 engineering schools. Right? It's actually a wonderful environment to be thinking about changing the world. Here we also have in Rochester this Destination Medical Center effort. It's a public-private partnership to grow. And the first building, the most important thing that happened is the parking lot got dismantled and the holes in the ground for the new building here in Destination Medical Center. So progress is happening, and you'll learn more. Okay. We have 3 divisions instead of 2. We have the junior anglers, we have the reelers, and then the professionals. And we have a series of additional prizes, and you'll learn about them today. Nuts and bolts, after this event, we will have a gathering at Collider. You're all invited. Here we are at Medical Science Building in Mann Hall. Some of you parked in the 3rd Street ramp, and then Collider is just around the corner. And since today the weather is good, it's not going to be hard to find. So without further ado, I did forget, I'm going to have Julie introduce the event from the point of view of our host, the Mayo Clinic.
Hello, I'm Julie Henry. I'm with the Department of Business Development here at Mayo Clinic. And on behalf of Mayo Clinic, the Department of Business Development and Research Office of Entrepreneurship, which I also spend a portion of my time with, I'd like to welcome you all here today. We're very excited for the event this afternoon. We think it's great. We can't wait to hear about the entrepreneurship and innovation that's happening here in these startup companies. We all know that in order to move forward today, we're going to need that. We're going to need investment. We're going to need support of each other, and we're going to need our community. So we're really looking forward to this afternoon. Hope everyone has a great time, and welcome to Mayo Clinic.
Okay, so I would like the Walleyes to start. You ready, Wade? You want to go first, or you want to be last?
Record, I can take.
All right, Wade is going to give us a start. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
This on?
Yeah.
I'm Wade Beavers. I like long walks on the beach. No, I'm kidding. I'm Wade Beavers. Currently, I'm the president of mobile for a News Cycle. Rochester company, our company out of Rochester called DoApp was acquired in 2016. We did actually 3 exits out of DoApp, one in 2012. Actually, a partnership with the Mayo Clinic in 2012 with a company called M Remedy that was acquired by Axel Exchange. Then in 2014, we sold a real estate technology solution that we had to CoreLogic, a publicly traded company out of California. And then in 2016, we were all acquired entirely in its entirety to a company called News Cycle Corp. Out of Bloomington, Minnesota, and they're part of the Vista Equity. Vista Equity's pretty large equity group, about 150 companies within their portfolio. So happy to be here. I've had a variety of things. I've seen this part. I've been on this side trying to raise money. I've also been on the other side evaluating companies. So just happy to be here.
Once again, I'm Julie Henry. I'm with the Department of Business Development. I'm the office. I'm an entrepreneurship intellectual property contract manager for Mayo Clinic. I've been with Mayo for 25 years. I started my career in the research laboratories in the protein core facility doing peptide synthesis and protein sequencing before I went back to do my MBA and moved over to the business world. So I've been with the office for about 20 years. So I've been in a lot of different roles as the licensing manager, reviewing intellectual property and inventions that have come through Mayo Clinic, working on strategic relationships, startup companies, and straightforward licenses. So look forward to being here. Happy to be here.
Good afternoon. I'm Christine Beach, and I'm with St. Mary's University of Minnesota. I run the entrepreneurship program out there. And prior to that, I just started this year doing that. So now my goal is to connect students with entrepreneurs. And prior to that, I was in the corporate world and built businesses for a decade or so. And I'm here.
Hello. Hi, I'm Fernando Bazan. I'm the science lead at Biotechne up in Minneapolis. It's a life science reagents company that is rapidly growing and diversifying, and I think with the ambition to become a biotech, a real honest biotech in the Twin Cities. And, that's 5 years or so. We've been increasingly involved with the venture and entrepreneurial activity in the Twin Cities and increasingly Rochester, and been happy to take part in this over the last year or two.
Yeah.
It's moved very quickly. My background is biochemistry and biophysics. Before Biotechne, I was at Genentech in the Bay Area. So I've worked in, startups and companies in the Bay Area for a while.
Hi, I'm John Santini. My background, I'm trained as a chemical engineer from MIT, and I've done now, over the last 20 years, 6 different startups. The last 2 are both in the Twin Cities, both focused on cancer. One is a cancer therapeutics company called Apigen Biotechnologies, and I'm currently the CEO of Virgent Bioscience, which is developing an injectable cancer probe for surgery.
I'm Perry Hackett. I've been a professor in genetic cell biology and development at the U in the Twin Cities for 37 years. I've started 2 biotech companies, the first Discovery Genomics in 2000, more recently Recombinetics, which is about making genome edits in large animals for multiple biomedical purposes, and this is my 4th appearance here at the Walleye.
Hi, I'm Carla Pavone. I am with the Home Center for Entrepreneurship at the University of Minnesota, and I lead MinCore, which is the University of Minnesota program to educate and coach scientists and engineers on commercialization. We are a site of the NSF National I-Corps program, and we've run about 90 different innovation teams through our program, several of which have now become successful companies.
I'm Carl Clark. I'm not actually one of the Walleyes, but I'm the official timekeeper. So people that are giving presentations, this counts down and starting from 5 minutes. And the first 2 minutes when you're supposed to be giving your pitch, it's green. Then for the next 2 minutes of questions, it's yellow. So if you bleed in the yellow bit, not too big of a deal, but the last minute it goes orange before going red. And then I basically cut you off, not in the midst of an answer unless you're rambling, or if Walleye's asking a question, we let that finish out, but then we move on.
Well, thank you, everybody. If we're ready to go, Team Brazen, come on down. You are leading off. We're excited to hear your story.
I thought he was here for now.
All right. We have a technical glitch.
But this has a camera? It has a randomly approved. Alright, they're videotaping for everything. There. Just this guy.
Awesome. All right. Whenever you're ready, let Dr. Clark know.
I'll start when you go. I'm ready. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jaime Aponte, and I'm here to present to you Brazen, Brain Injury Diagnostics. So, we all love sports, right? We love American football. We love contact sports. But what we don't love is getting hurt playing sports. And currently, there's a big problem with hand injury and traumatic brain injury, which can lead to very harsh disease while playing these sports and getting repetitive impacts. So currently, there's a big problem, and it's that when you're assessing injury on the field, it's a very subjective way to do it. You do tests on the field to the players, you ask them how they feel, how they are. However, this can only assess really very big trauma, but it cannot really detect asymptomatic traumatic brain injury. However, we are bringing to you a quantifiable assessment of the brain injury, which can be used on the field and which can be used very easily. And that is why we bring to you Brazen Diagnostics, a bold, honest approach to brain trauma. So how does this work? We're going to use a medical device which will measure multiple variables which have been backed up by the medical literature from Mayo Clinic at Jacksonville, Florida, and other research as well. And we will look at eye movement. Why? It is shown that changes in eye movement immediately after getting hit in the head can display asymptomatic brain injury. This way you can assist the player on the field, take them off the game, and do further workup if it's necessary. So Right now, the product landscape, we're bringing something new, something novel. Why? Because what's out there right now is either very complicated to use and not really user-friendly, for example, in the military, or there are other applications that are not really too accurate in terms of detecting the potential brain injury. And our go-to markets would be high school athletics. Why high school athletics? Well, there's a big amount of players all around the United States. Here in Minnesota, we're thinking about the Minnesota High School Association, Coaches Association, to go there and present them this product to start off and to make the game safer for our athletes and to start off a business and sell this to the teams as well. So we have we have leaders on the field. Leaders composed of neurologists from Mayo Clinic Rochester, Mayo Clinic at Jacksonville as well. We have people with expertise in consulting, informatics as well, and we have really good personnel developing this project right now. So to finalize, Brayson Diagnostics, a bold, honest approach to brain trauma. Thank you very much, and let me know if you have any questions.
So I've got a question here. How do you validate your technology, and can you protect it by IP?
So right now we're in the process of doing the research to develop this technology. It's been done mostly at Jacksonville. So we're right now collecting patients and working also with engineers to start to further develop the algorithm, and that's where we're at right now to validate this technology.
So is your expectation that this product would involve baseline scans for all of the players on the field so that you know what their normal responses are?
Yes.
Okay.
Right now, that's what we're expecting to do.
Do you have an expectation of the time it takes for, I'm assuming as a trainer is going to utilize that, put it on, look at the baseline. How quick can you evaluate, or the expectation of evaluating a player that quick?
It should be like less than 5 minutes. It's a very quick assessment because it just when you use the device, you put it right in there in front of the player, it'll look at some particular movements and it will be fairly quick. So it also allows for the flow of the game and all of that as well.
Is it a specific standalone device, or is it an app that you would put on a normal phone or device or other technology?
We're thinking about developing a device for now. However, it will be a very small device, portable, so that can be easy to use on the field.
So how does the device compare to the military one, besides the size?
Compared to the what?
Well, you mentioned that there's a military in terms of something that could be comparable, but it's too cumbersome to use. So how does yours differentiate?
What we've researched so far, the current military products that are available require a certain level of expertise and training to be used, to be able to use them. However, this is very user-friendly. As you saw in the previous slide, it has so what we will do, you open the device, you put it on, and it has some specific signs so the player can look at them, and it can detect the variations in these variables. And then if one variable you're really off the expected values, then we assess, okay, potential risk, take the player off the field, work them up.
Have you thought about the risk of misdiagnosis if something had happened and someone...
So we're really not trying to be a final diagnostic product. It's more of prevention of further injury. So we really don't see ourselves, as marketing as, we're going to diagnose brain injury and this could be, life-threatening. It's more of raising awareness. This player might be hurt. Let's check them out.
So the key utility then is allowing the coaching staff on the sideline whether to return a person to the game or not.
Exactly. Yes.
Could it be used for recuperative period afterwards? See at some point when they return back to their baseline?
Definitely it could be used because if, let's say you had brain injury and right now you have, right now you're being sacked or whatever, the movements have changed. However, what we expect is that if you have a player that is out of the normal boundaries, we take him off the game, they should be further assessed maybe by medical experts. We don't, right now that's what we expect.
We should get false signals out of something that's not brain injury. For instance, if somebody's been drinking or
some
other drug.
Well, we haven't really assessed the potential use of drugs because right now, where we expect to use this is on the field with athletes, where we really don't expect that much to be happening. The product will be fixed so that there's no confounding with movements and external, variables that could affect like lightning and all of that. So that's what we have really looked at right now.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Zachary does a swap of our team.
Steve?
Yes.
In order to keep this on time, you might say that if people want to get this.
Oh, yes. Okay. So we have a lot of presentations. So we're going to try to stay focused with the 5 minutes. Here, we have an opportunity from the audience point of view. Please participate, but we're going to have to stay within 5 minutes. Okay, so thank you. All right. Thanks. You might.
I don't know if it's on or not.
Yeah, it's
okay.
All right.
Oh, the name
Click
of God.
Right?
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Gabe, and I'm with the group Nominal Impedance. And today we are talking about soft tissue calcification, or calcinosis, which is a buildup of calcium phosphate, which can lead to the formation of calcium masses in soft tissue. It's a debilitating disease that forms mainly in joints and other soft tissues, and as you can imagine, that can cause a considerable amount of mobility issues and discomfort for the patients who it develops in. Not much is known about what causes calcinosis, but we know that it occurs in several autoimmune disorders and in people who have suffered from any kind of traumatic brain injury in combination with polytrauma. At-risk populations include military veterans and people with juvenile dermatomyositis, also in rare cases in burn victims and coma patients. 40% of people with juvenile dermatomyositis will develop some kind of calcinosis, and 64% of people with any kind of traumatic brain injury and polytrauma will develop calcinosis as well. And there's about 1.7 million cases of traumatic brain injury in the US per year. So early detection and proactive treatment. Why is early detection important? Drug therapies can slow down and even stop the progression of calcinosis. So if we can catch it early enough, we can prevent the disease altogether. So we are using electrical impedance spectroscopy, and this is a diagram kind of our device currently. We can use changes in impedance of the soft tissue in order to detect changing levels of calcium phosphate, which is a precursor to calcinosis. So this will be a disruptive technology, as currently there is no effective method for early detection on the market. Right now, the only way they detect is using X-rays, and that can only detect after the formation of the calcifications, and it's already causing considerable harm to the patients. We will be selling directly to the hospitals and research centers at the VA, and this is an emerging issue because in the military, because improving medical technology is allowing soldiers to survive their battle injuries more, and this is a result of their injuries. This is our team. We've got Morris, who's in charge of the business and VA connections, me, who's doing device design and research and development, and then Cody is doing software development and research and development as well. And then the current status, we finished our first prototype and did some proof of concept testing. This is a picture of our first prototype and us doing the tests. And right now we're performing market research and using that to develop our second prototype. We have filed our first provisional patent, and we plan to file a second provisional patent in 2018. Thank you.
I can't see from the your mock-up of the prototype there.
Okay.
How does it actually work?
Yeah, so the prototype and how the device is going to work is you would apply surface electrodes, non-invasive surface electrodes to the location of suspected injury. And like I said, it occurs at joints, but also in like the site of whatever injury you have, in the case of traumatic brain injury and polytrauma. So you just apply the electrodes to the location you think the calcification is going to occur, and you can monitor the changes of calcium phosphate in that suspected location.
don't you think the heterogeneity of this tissue is too complex to have any normal, something called normal for a person?
So right now we're developing in our software, we're developing a filter that can help filter out some of these the background noise caused by changing impedance of different tissues. And the way we're doing that is we're plan on testing it on different patients and getting kind of a baseline for those normalities, and then we will be able to detect the changes based on that filter.
It's very hard.
So you used a couple terms intermittently and interchangeably, and so calcinosis versus heterotopic ossification versus ectopic ossification. I mean, it would seem as though blast injury is remarkably different, or even kids that, let's say, have a limb cut off from a lawnmower or whatever. Like it's very high risk of heterotopic ossification, which is not calcinosis necessarily. I mean, what is your exact application? Because calcinosis by itself, not true. It's a gigantic market. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that. Heterotopic ossification, you say, well, if you're young with a traumatic injury, then you treat it.
Yeah, so our device could detect it in either case. I know I was using them interchangeably, but heterotopic ossification occurs more with the traumatic brain injury, and then the calcinosis is more with like the juvenile dermatomyositis crowd. And our device could detect it on either way. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Well, kind of does, but you kind of, I think, with either group, you kind of directly treat it regardless, I guess.
Treat it regardless.
Yeah, well, I mean, are you proposing screening every single patient?
It would just be the patients that meet the criteria and who are likely to develop the calcifications. And yeah, it would be an easy screening technique. You could do it at regular checkups. The device is fairly fast and easy to use. So,
if you have more questions, you can maybe talk about the collider after.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So back to one down. Electronic intrathecal guidance.
I'm ready. Good afternoon. The problem that I'm going to be trying to tackle and sort of attract your attention is about a guidance for spinal taps, that is any kind of intrathecal access. Right now, there are about 400,000 spinal taps reported per year done per Medicare data by neurologists only. More appropriate estimates of about current total numbers of spinal taps in this country is about 1 million. Now, these spinal taps are done blindly at the bedside without any guidance, and the failure rate, at least at Mayo Clinic, is greater than 50 to 60%. And they all subsequently come down to radiology to be done under X-ray guidance, which is quite expensive, adds about $400 to $500 of cost, increases patients' radiation exposure, causes delays in diagnosis, and it is very disruptive to the workflow of the radiology department. Nobody likes them to be done in radiology. So we are proposing a technology using electronic guidance to provide guidance at the bedside and in the outpatient clinics, which won't require any kind of imaging. So the idea is to use changes in impedance as the needle advances in the tissue by means of by means of a patch electrode. So what we need to do is we need to complete a circuit by using a patch electrode somewhere in the neck and using the advantage of cerebrospinal fluid as a highly conducting medium in contrast to the soft tissues, which are poorly conducting. So once the needle is heading in the right direction towards the thecal sac, there will be a steady drop in impedance, and there will be a precipitous drop in impedance once the needle hits the thecal sac. And that'll be a clear indicator by means of a display system which could use LEDs to indicate to the physician that the needle is heading in the right direction, has now entered the thecal sac. So it's going to be a small, sterile, disposable device that will use a standard LP needle kit and a small compact device using the current technology can be easily built at a cost of about $5 to $10 and could be sold between $25 to $30 either as a standalone device or inside an LP kit. And even if at 20% acceptance, we are talking about 200,000 to 400,000 units sold annually in this country for electronic guidance. So our team, which comprises of neuroradiologists who do these procedures every day under X-ray, and a electrophysiologist, cardiac electrophysiologist, has the sufficient expertise to build a prototype and test it in animal models as well as in clinical patients. And that's pretty much all I had to tell you. I'm happy to ask you any questions.
Walleye should go ahead and go first there, and then if we have time, we have other people.
So do you have a sense of any sort of rate of sort of bad outcomes that come from this, from improperly done procedures? Like, how, what are you going to save by improving this procedure?
So there are two things we say. One is that by allowing this to be done under guidance, we could actually allow the mid-levels to do this procedure and save the physician time. So these could be done in the clinics and at the bedside by people who have minimal training, who have no training, and it can also help their training to understand what is the correct way to do a spinal tap by using some guidance. On the other hand, it'll save per patient about $400 to $500 when it is done under the X-ray guidance. So there are two things. One is that it'll minimize the discomfort to patients because, oftentimes there are 5 to 6 attempts made at the bedside with individual punctures. Whereas with the guidance, we're hoping that it'll be able to be done with one single puncture. And the additional advantage would be that there won't be any extra exposure. So there are going to be basically benefits not only as an entrepreneur, but there are going to be considerable healthcare cost-saving benefits as well.
So the cost savings is a specialist now who makes $600,000 a year the work's going to get done by somebody making $60,000 a year is what I'm hearing.
That is correct.
Okay, so that's a huge savings. How many in a place like the Mayo Clinic? How many of those done on a daily basis? This procedure.
At Mayo, we do about. As an institution, we do about 12 to 15 a day.
Okay, there you go. That's the number I want to know. I also look at it: $4 million for you to produce, $12 million in sales. That's about an $8 million differential. So there is pretty dramatic numbers here that I'm seeing.
Right, and I think these procedures that really no physician wants to do because it is a gross underutilization of their expertise.
Good.
Okay. You got my question.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Set for the next division. Thank you. Wonderful young entrepreneurs. Right. Sound
yeah.
Walleye.
Exactly.
All right. You working? Good? All right. Clicker? All right. Hello. My name is Brian. I'm the founder of Soundly. Soundly is a app-based therapy to help reduce snoring. So snoring is a very serious social problem. And unfortunately, current solutions are bulky, uncomfortable, and people just really hate wearing stuff on their face when they go to sleep. We've identified that there's about a 43 million person target market of people who are looking for alternative solutions and are looking for something better. Well, Soundly is something better, and it's better because we actually address the root cause of snoring. Snoring is caused by a weak upper airway, which collapses and causes noisy vibrations during sleep. And what we do is we've actually conducted a small clinical study and have shown that with just 2 key vocalizations, you can actually strengthen and tone the upper airway and thus reduce the vibrations that actually cause snoring. And I'm sure you're all wondering what exactly those vocalizations are. Well, it's an E sound, which brings the back of the throat all the way forward, and an ah sound, which brings the back of the throat all the way to the back. It's like doing a perfect push-up, but for your upper airway. You can also think of it like doing physical therapy for your upper airway. So it does take 10 to 15 minutes a day for about 6 weeks to see the effect. Now, that sounds like it'd be really boring to be sitting there saying, nee, 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 no, 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 all day. What we've done is made that really fun, really engaging with a smartphone application. You say E to move it to the left, ah to move it to the right. There's tons of gamification in there, a little bit of a throwback to the old asteroid games. We actually are in beta right now, so we have about 600 beta testers have downloaded it. After 3 weeks, we have a 25% retention rate of 120, 130 beta testers. Our average engagement per active user is 15 minutes, which for a game is really, really good. And the lifetime value of our active users is $20, which for an app is really high. So we can be very disruptive, enter in the market, and meet a completely unmet need right now. Where we're at is we're planning to launch in January 2018. The app itself is just the first step. The second step is actually partnering with either co-therapies, so existing therapies that are out there, as well as sleep tracking devices. And we actually have a letter of intent with a company called Sleep Score, which is backed by Dr. Oz and ResMed, which is the largest producer of sleep apnea devices. And we've been invited to partner with them at the CES, which is the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas this year. So we're hoping that will be a good launch. Well, that's Soundly, and this is the team that's making it happen. So looking forward to your questions.
You mentioned that there's a target market of 43 million. Do you know what the age group is there?
Yeah, so that's for all adults, basically. The 40% of adults snore. As you go up in age, you increase in the percentage of people that snore.
And as you go up in age, have you looked at how many of them are going to use an app?
Yes. Yeah.
What's that target market look like?
So, like how to segment out that 43 million?
Right.
So basically you can, there's a bunch of different ways you can slice it. For the general consumer market, you take that 43 million, and that includes everybody over 30, and then you can section that out. Those are people who are co-sleep and use apps. So to answer your question, that includes people who co-sleep and use smartphone applications. What's that?
What was that number?
That's the 43 million for the app-based market.
When you looked at your market, did you look at people that have just minor snoring issues versus people that have severe sleep apnea, and you think this app can work across the whole gamut spectrum?
Yes, so this app, the 43 million, is for habitual snorers, so people who snore more than 3 days a week. We actually have a subset, which are people who go through sleep clinics. Those are the very severe people, and we actually have a lot of partnerships with sleep clinics that we're building right now. And that's about 25% of people who go through sleep clinics fall into primary snoring category, where they only snore, they don't have sleep apnea, but it's a severe situation.
Yeah, just curious. I mean, if it all depends on the muscle tone of your upper airway, do singers, opera singers, musicians, do they get less? Do they snore less?
Yeah, so what actually started this research out of the Fairview Sleep Center was a paper that came out that showed that playing the didgeridoo can dramatically reduce sleep apnea and snoring. So we started looking at devices, making basically a didgeridoo that you could use, and we said, hey, we could do it with just the app itself.
Right.
So, thank you.
Although the didgeridoo would have been really fun.
I know, it would be fun. I don't know which would be more annoying. They're probably the same.
Rock band for didgeridoo.
Yeah, right?
It makes it rocking, I guess. We'll see.
Yeah.
You have a clicker there?
Oh. Something like that.
Hi, I'm Ian Macon, a thoracic surgeon from Jacksonville, Florida, Mayo Clinic. I'm going to talk to you today about a technology that will disrupt the field of thoracic surgery, specifically the treatment of empyema and hemothorax. That's infection and blood in the pleural space. The pleural space is the space in between the lungs and the chest wall. It's a problematic space for the retention of unwanted fluid. There's a technology gap for treatment of these problems. Chest tube, which is the first treatment, is a passive drain with at least a 10% failure rate. Surgical evacuation is indicated when chest tube management fails. $1.5 billion is spent on this treatment every year for surgical therapy. I think most, if not all, of this problem could be treated with our technology. So the solution is an active chest tube. You can think of it as a robotic cleaner for the pleural space, robotic pool cleaner for the pleural space. The key to it is a vibration motor which permits movement, prevents stasis of blood, and more quickly disperses TPA. The patent is pending. Most importantly, this technology is already proven. We utilized a pig hemothorax model in 8 pigs, and our active chest tube technology improved drainage over a standard chest tube by 30%, and this was both with and without TPA. The team consists of me and my wife. I've learned after 10 years of marriage who the boss is. She has experience with grant applications and statistics, and I have the clinical know-how and prototype experience. Why now? There's 2 reasons. The market potential is large and growing because of an aging population and increasing antibiotic resistance. And the second reason is the emergence of value-based care. The solution can preclude the need for surgery, which saves money. And why a business? In addition to the technology gap, there's a price gap. So when a $50 chest tube fails, we go to a $25,000 surgery. This technology is positioned in between. This allows plenty of cost savings for payers while still allowing plenty of room for profit. Moreover, there's a quality benefit here. Also, the elderly are poor surgical candidates, and this technology will permit the most minimally invasive approach to treatment of the pleural space. Thanks for your attention, and welcome your questions.
Is vibration, is it mechanical or is
Mechanical
it sonic
vibration.
sound waves that you're...
Well, we tried ultrasound, and it didn't work as well. So we went to vibration.
Have you talked with regulatory about whether this might be a 510K or is this a PMA?
That's a great question, and we're hoping it would be a 510K on a predicate device.
And what do you think the cost would be? You said it was kind of in between. There's a pretty big range. What would you guess right now?
To sell?
To make or and sell.
So, $1,000 to sell it, and I don't think it, in its current format, it wouldn't be much to produce. I mean, those vibration motors are like $5.
So of the pig models that you used, were these normal pigs where you were looking for an increase in response, or are these pigs that have this type of a condition that's induced?
So it was a pig hemothorax model, so we injected a liter of blood into their pleural space. We took it from them, injected it, and then one just had a regular chest tube, which we put on suction, and the other one had the vibration motor, and it drained better.
About how many surgeries annually do people have to go into surgery because the chest tube fails?
So 60,000.
60,000?
Yeah, and I just estimated the cost of that is $25,000 per surgery. So that's 1.5
And that's
million.
in the U.S.?
That's just the U.S., and that's annually.
So worldwide?
Well, probably the best comparison would be Europe, and I'd have to say probably an equal amount.
Is there a particular way to accurately subdivide who is most at risk? Because taking a jump from $50 to anything in a sort of a med tech market is really difficult. So is there any way to say that this is the patient population where 50%, I'm going to have 50% failure rate with these people, as opposed to saying every chest tube I put in is going to have this?
So it could go either way. I mean, ideally, this would replace chest tubes. I mean, that would be the ultimate goal. But there's nothing stopping you putting a regular chest tube in. It doesn't work, and then putting this in.
Yeah. Awesome.
last of the reelers. Pass them around.
Well, this is the hook. That's a real device.
Saves a lot of questions.
Good afternoon, Walleyes. My name is Tim Harshman. I'm a surgical assistant at Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville, and I invented the Harshman retractor. So these are some of the retractors used, and 48 million surgical procedures are performed every year. Surgical procedures require the use of retractors like this to provide the exposure for the surgeon. The ergonomics of these handles is good, but it's not very comfortable for very long. In this graph, you can see that many surgeries are performed, millions of surgeries are performed, mainly in obstetric, OBGYN, orthopedic, and general surgery, where the Diva retractor, like that one I showed you, is used. Companies like this sell the market and distribute these instruments to these specialties. In the light blue part of this graph, you can see where the handheld surgical devices is a growing market. And on average, a Diva retractor like that costs anywhere from $22 to $200, depending on the handle. So retractors are global, and the market is expected to have a major lucrative growth between 2017 and 2025. So there hasn't been a lot of innovation since the Mayo brothers, and today's retractors are really kind of medieval. So this is a Diva retractor we wrap the Co-band around, which is a non-stick to help the assistant with the grip, but it's not very good for very long, and it has to be removed each time. So every time you switch hands with this retractor, you lose the exposure for the surgeon. So the Co-band works, but it's not that good. And if we could toe in the tip, like I did on this one, it would work much better. I also bent the handle up 90 degrees in this initial prototype to give ergonomics to the user. This is the secondary prototype, and during the trialing of the initial prototype and the secondary prototype, the toed-in feature at the end proved to be a worthwhile change. The handle, on the other hand, was not a welcome change and still needed some work to be done. So I did some experimentation. The new handle needed to be more ergonomic and user-friendly to avoid losing exposure and eliminate the fatigue for the surgical assistants. So I thought of this. I designed this handle called the Harshman handle. And this is going to be added to the distal end of the Diva retractor or the Harshman retractor. And it can also be used with other types of retractors that are in the market today that will provide better assistant work. It will enhance and lengthen this exposure time for the surgeon during this critical time of the patient's procedure. Why now? The Harshman retractor will reduce and eliminate retractor slips. It will extend surgical exposure time, make surgeries more efficient. It'll make work more comfortable for surgical assistants around the world, and lower error risk for hospitals during surgery, all the while generating a substantial revenue for new instrument sales. So from Diva retractor to Harshman retractor, wherever the Diva retractor is used today, the Harshman retractor can be used tomorrow. Thank you.
How much time is spent in the OR adjusting the retractors now? How much time would this save in a standard procedure that would be used a regular retractor?
Well, a lot of the loss of exposure happens from fatigue of the assistant or during a change of shift or change of people. So there's no way of I guess, handing off the retraction duties right now without losing the exposure. And that loss of exposure is where the time consumption comes in the surgeries, where surgery could take an hour. It's taking an hour and a half because there's a lot of fiddling around with the surgery, with the retractors.
So an extra 30 minutes in the OR causes how much dollars?
Well, it's about $62 an hour, depending on the type of surgery. But
62 an hour?
A minute.
62 a minute. Okay.
A minute, yes. So that's going to be a substantial savings over a half an hour. And not to mention the stress level in the room is much easier because the surgical assistant is comfortable using the retractor. The exposure is retained for a longer period of time, therefore enhancing the surgery, which in turn will lead to time savings in the operating room. The operating room can then have more surgical procedures performed because of the time savings of not messing around with the retractors.
Is there IP here, and have you filed any?
Yes, sir. I filed it with Mayo Clinic, and it's protected as far as that's concerned, but there's no official filing with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office yet or anything like that.
What's the back of the envelope profit that you would expect per year if you had, say, a 5% share of the market?
Well, because it's still in a prototype phase, I don't have a lot of numbers yet. This is my third prototype. My first two prototypes led to this. I'm here at the Walleye tank to help get this handle associated with the distal working end and get this into the market. So I can't really answer that question as of yet, but I think once the retractor is in the market, it would sell for about $100. Just the handle, I think, would sell for about $25. So, does that answer your question?
Last question. Can you retrofit these to put the handle on these existing ones?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's a big thing. And you think that's $25? How many manufacturers of companies are doing this?
Probably thousands.
Okay.
And now one left.
It evidently wasn't very
There's another one.
Down at 310.
Tractors always need to be made out of wood because they just be all 3D printed now.
Good, but I think the metal's going to last longer.
Yeah.
Printing is
Yes.
Oh,
absolutely. Yes.
Print metal particles censor them, but I don't know. Yeah, that would be my only issue.
Like this. But it's kind of actually interesting. That is the first nip test.
They normally wait
500
associated with that. They invited me down to the talk. That one was
which one? Yeah. There's a whole bunch of this stuff that's not even in there. There's a whole, and it's happening every day. How about the Corax one? The vibration.
I want that too.
I
want to know. How are you? Hi, Jeff with the Brazen Group.
So it just vibrates.
Enjoy the presentation.
So then, what does that mean?
Are you in Jacksonville?
So everything just kind of keeps.
My dad's a radiologist here.
Yeah, no, I know. That's not draining down. Is that how it's gonna work?
I get that.
Other factor in the blood. I think the body would.
Yeah, he doesn't travel now. He has myositis, so he's Rochester bound.
Body doesn't allow.
Well, suppliers can.
He loves. I mean, he for about 5 years he was doing grand rounds and everywhere.
With
yeah.
science, the biology, other.
No, I travel for him.
How do you segment the patient?
I get that.
That works out. How do you get involved? Yeah.
One of two. Buy that for reality. He's gonna start selling his own.
That's the way to go.
Yeah. Great though. Yeah. Just.
So is Spinal Tap your favorite movie then?
How do you know how much?
Is Spinal Tap your favorite movie?
Yeah, turn it up to 11. Yeah.
Vibration.
This way or this way. All kind of.
No, for me, I thought it was great. But if
I have AJ advancing slides based on the script that I've got.
And when he said
I used the game the other day.
the ultrasound,
I can't imagine it's difficult. Hours back.
What?
What was I doing? Manually back.
Anytime you have interface, thing doesn't go automatically. You have the reflection. So when he said that,
Everything wrote memorized.
ultrasound.
I can hold my iPhone. I've got the script on the iPhone.
Autoclave it.
Chemical force goes across. It's an art. It's not just. I know. But it said it doesn't work.
Carrying it around and then no, I don't have it.
How much is it? Go back. What kind of ring? Most probably what.
That's nothing.
Ultrasound.
That's like if you can write it down.
And mechanical.
I haven't been here a full year.
Vibration. Yes.
Yeah, that's very different.
never been in it.
If I do motion like this, then say cycle per second versus ultrasound, which is 10,000, 20, more than 20,000 cycle per second. The energy with high frequency is not. It's decay very fast.
Basically, like
It's not gonna propagate.
I've never seen something
I
like
don't think.
that.
I think
So
it's a
they
lot
don't
of
know their
science.
electricity.
They're working on it.
Yes. But that's the beauty. People will do. We said it worked. And they don't care very much why it worked.
But I have an app for it.
What?
I have an app for it. It's gotta be good.
I actually.
How is your building? This is Raphael.
Hi, Raphael. I'm Jocelyn.
Raphael, nice meeting you.
Justin own a business in downtown in the Bioscience building. Infusion.
Works.
It
works.
She's a big shot here in town.
It works. It works. So far it works. Right?
Oh, I have to show you this.
Yes, yes.
Because you might use it.
Yeah, I'm still thinking about your there's $1 billion that comes and how to make the women pretty. I mean, come on.
No, watch this one and tell me what.
I think like how to make
Yeah,
the women pretty.
Okay, watch this.
Okay.
I hate to
Go ahead.
Right.
Because you're
up and down.
you're
Yeah,
not
right.
an idea, you know.
I invented.
Not that they don't want this drink is great.
So I developed. I can give you.
They're the provider. No, I think.
Oh,
I know these guys have versus the opposite. All kinds.
awesome. What do you do
I was meeting with Gus today, and he said, make it for outdoor.
Are you like a runner, a kayaker, a rock climber?
This one that.
Okay.
80.
Yeah, we looked at different.
Don't feel it.
Oh my goodness.
And then at the same time, you know, we have to do research in Mayo and publish.
Tracy.
No. No, you're pliable.
And there's actually
Hunter and Tracy.
So your 9-volt battery. I can make your gloves that will handle the warm.
So you know
yeah, it was like a hand.
I can make gloves the same. Yeah, jackets is.
I'm a commercial real estate.
Thin film.
But I find that surrounding myself
make like a bikini. I could
Yes, for one. Yeah.
in the middle of the winter.
I mean, I told her, I was like,
yeah, for losing I do.
Lose the weight.
Ah, there you go.
Burn the fat, yeah.
Burn the fat away.
We just gotta get Versace. Victoria's Secret. That's how you do people's attention.
That's what he told me. He said women are the one who gonna buy. He had an idea about defrosting.
out, you know what I mean? Because we were right you before, but.
Oh, she'll get in, definitely.
I mean, it's a bit.
Yeah, no, but it's...
So basically what it's doing is replacing the wires for paint. Now the coast of Portugal is
It's a press.
I seen it.
Sorry?
I seen it.
You
I'm gonna do crystallization, but I'm on one gradient. Go down.
That medical practice. I can practice in America with
American dream. White picket fence, 2.5 kids.
Laboratory.
Oh, freehold. Not the average for the
It can take integration. This one, it can take this shape. I can make this one shape. I can make it here. I can do it here. I can make this a hanger at your home. That one will be.
That I don't know. But make it a break it. What are you serving? Outer Rochester by 5:45.
Okay. Worker. Gonna make.
I promise.
Oh,
Your toes? Oh, okay.
I still need the knife.
Okay, yeah.
no, not that long.
No, she starts.
I'm using knife as an example. Yeah, it's super thin. There is now super thin.
Laughing because
How what?
it's just playing it.
The most.
Finally,
Don't forget the floors.
And that I'm already.
He's like, ready?
I have a cement. I have it on the cement board and polyethylene or epoxy.
That was the lawyer guy.
We can do it. I came up with another idea today. At least one or two patents. One of them would be like the tubing, which they call it hydroband. Hydroband is a hot water that goes under. I was telling Rafael, I'm gonna make a fluid.
Ask for advice.
It doesn't require a flow.
That is.
You apply electricity, it will work. Now it's in hot water.
I have it in my hands.
So the idea is just endless.
Even if we just like coating at the back of the wood, right?
Or I can make the wall feel good. I put it between the wood.
That's, I don't know, you're a lawyer.
an easy target.
Happens all the time. There's another
We
patent.
need another patent. We put the electrode. If it goes down, you know that it's gone. Here we have our
There you
patent. Just talk to us and we'll give you patent.
Imagine if she would have gone home and like,
Where's my They need it.
I live with 3 girls. So, 3 girls. My wife and my... I call them all my girls. No, they're not my wives.
There's a harem now.
I better explain that.
Yes. A harem at all.
Friday. Packages are starting to come. Not allowed to open any.
So I'm.
Set it on the bench. Not allowed to open a box. Ed check teams.
You know what, though? They almost need 5 minutes for
Not worry about.
presentation, and then
Uh-huh.
it's
And,
but you only have
my counterpart And I did an event. Your name says Dale Henry.
And we'll make people going on psychiatric.
My counterparts.
Then what you have to say is,
We're private. If it was in the
Yeah, we have everything but money.
the amendment.
all of it.
I'm sure it's I was writing.
Yeah.
I'm going to a meeting.
Yes, I know.
Give the meeting and the address and all this myself. While I'm writing, I said,
Getting people.
remember the invader.
You don't need to get that fancy. Let me just get another $5 one.
That's funny.
Pharmacists, I think. Yeah, their own company.
I worked with
Looks pretty smart.
the National I-Corps program.
No, this is great. I mean, I'm looking at some of the stuff you guys are talking about.
But I also have been connected a lot with people over in the fast forward medical.
I'm going to go talk to Steve.
All right, there you go.
And anytime you want to leave. Going after?
I'm remembering first names and not last names right now. So John Servos is one of the people. There's a woman, and I can't remember the name of the position, runs the whole that program.
I actually was an advisor to the tech transfer.
Yeah, and that's a relatively recent program. That's like 3 years old, I think. In many ways, Michigan is kind of behind the ball, especially on medical licensing and spin-outs and stuff like that. So they did quite a job. They kind of hopped over a lot of other people in terms of what they're now.
Hi, everyone. If everyone could start returning to your seats or start wandering that direction, that'd be great.
I was going to hear all my list.
Or your tip up. You could say you got your tip up.
I can just come to the kids meeting with you. I'm usually really good with teachers.
Can everyone sit down?
Yeah. I've never met your wife. It'd be a great opportunity.
Kristen Jacobson says hi by
There are actually a couple people in this meeting.
How did your process go in the class?
Hello. Can we reconvene? We're going. Our wonderful AV, gentleman. His name's Zachary Ware-Johnson. Zachary's been awesome for getting everything together. But he also has another hat. He wears the hat as a leader of the BioLinks entrepreneurial community inside Rochester. He's going to take you through just for 30 seconds or whatever it is on BioLinks while we get ready. Hi, I don't have slides or anything. I'm not competing. If you want to vote for me to win, you can. But so, as Steve was saying, another thing that I do here besides organizing this or help organize this 2 times a year is I run the BioLink Society here at Rochester. It's a Mayo Clinic-based group, but we try to include anyone who wants to from any walk of life in the Rochester area. What it is it's a seminar group and a meeting group where people with entrepreneurial background will come and share their ideas with people who want to learn more. So regularly, normally about 2 events a month, we invite a guest speaker, which has included one of our Walleyes recently, Perry Hackett, and a list of many others. And at that presentation, we ask people to share their entrepreneurial experience, and then they get time to interact with the audience who shows up if they want to learn more about how they got there, what they should do to get into entrepreneurialism. And then we also try to just have places where you can potentially meet your next business partner. We try to get everybody with an entrepreneurial mindset in Rochester into the same room. So if you have an idea and you're like, oh, I need a finance person, then there's a finance person there, you can meet them. So if you're interested in BioLinks, if you don't already receive my emails, you can just send me a quick email at walleyetank@gmail.com and I can add you to that mailing list. Without further ado, let's get back to the show. Okay, so we are entering the 3rd division, which is the professionals. We have our first speaker,
and presenter is from Marvel MedTech. One of my favorite parts of this is getting an email from somebody I've never heard. Wonderful conversations over email, and got a chance to meet Ray now in person. So Ray, are you ready to go?
I am ready.
Awesome. Take it away.
So good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Marvel MedTech is located in the Madison, Wisconsin area. I am Ray Harder, the founder and president. And despite recent progress in lowering the breast cancer death rate, 41,000 women will still die of breast cancer this year. And the reason for that primarily is because the current standard of care, X-ray mammography, is really crappy at screening breast cancer. It just it's not capable of finding the most dangerous breast cancers. Marvel MedTech is integrating two proven technologies in a new out-of-the-box approach that will truly transform breast cancer healthcare, saving many more lives, significantly reducing the cost of breast cancer healthcare, and dramatically improving the quality of life for breast cancer survivors. Here's some evidence that MRI is by far the superior tool for detecting breast cancer. This is data from a German study that was done a few years ago. The bar on the left shows the typical sensitivity for X-ray mammography at 33%. This means mammography missed 67% of the cancers in this study. You can plainly see there that MRI has a sensitivity of virtually 100%. But even more compelling, MRI is now known to have a preferential bias for detecting the most dangerous, typically fatal, forms of breast cancer that mammography typically misses. And recently proven abbreviated MRI protocols will reduce the cost of breast MRI screening by an order of magnitude. This will make breast MRI screening much more affordable and available to virtually everyone. Cryotherapy is a proven alternative to surgery. It's currently used today to treat liver and kidney cancers and other cancers. It's not yet a standard of care for breast cancer. This is rapidly changing. There are presently multiple trials of breast cancer cryotherapy that are enrolling new patients. Making this even more exciting and compelling is the accumulating evidence that freezing a tumor actually induces the immune system to generate an anti-tumor immune response that can actually prevent the cancer from recurring and spreading. This is huge. This is huge when you think about it. Cryotherapy is now known to be an effective key for unlocking this natural cancer capability that's built into our immune systems. Since MRI is best at detecting these small, dangerous breast tumors, it will also be best at guiding minimally invasive interventional procedures to cryoablate these small, dangerous tumors. And also then trigger this natural immune response. Marvel MedTech has developed an MRI intervention guidance accessory system that will allow these cryotherapy procedures to be done quickly, easily, safely, with real-time MR imaging guidance and interactive control. Our out-of-the-box approach, application approach, proposes cryoablation of screening detected tumors before a cancer diagnosis is or can be made. There is a well-established precedent for this common-sense preventive approach. For example, removing polyps during a colonoscopy screening exam. By preemptively cryoablating screening detected tumors, we can effectively stop early-stage breast cancer at the earliest possible opportunity and trigger the anti-cancer immune response that can prevent it from spreading further. This will dramatically reduce the number of biopsies, mastectomies, lumpectomies, chemotherapy, radiation treatments that need to be done, significantly lowering the cost of breast cancer healthcare and also dramatically improving the quality of life for breast cancer patients because they can now avoid these disfiguring surgeries and the very devastating side effects of chemo and radiation therapy. In addition to our core team here, we have an extensive team of engineers, MRI and cryogenic scientists, breast MRI clinicians, business development, and regulatory compliance experts. We've accumulated over a decade of proprietary institutionalized knowledge in this new field of interventional MRI. The MRI, the image-guided interventional market is huge and has a sustained track record for expansion. MRI, one of the most capable imaging modalities, has actually been locked out of this market until now. While focused initially on the very compelling opportunity to transform breast cancer healthcare, our system is a platform technology that's easily adaptable to other IGI scenarios. And so here's my last slide. We're looking, we are currently looking for, or offering a $3.5 million Series A round to get this to the point where we can get first in human clinical studies and 510K clearance in about 12 to 18 months. If you're an investor or an interventional radiologist, we'd be really happy to talk to you. Thank you for your kind attention. There's one way up there.
Question. Yes.
You're using that as interventional guidance. What is your speed of re-imaging in a fluoroscopic use, and what's the resolution?
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
What is the speed of re-imaging? When you do CT fluoroscopy, you re-image and you place your needle.
We're
with MRI, it's
in,
usually a slow process, so you must have some way of speeding it up, and that's usually its cost of resolution.
right. We're doing virtually real-time imaging. We're getting about 3 to 5 frames per second, and we can actually get in our prototype system. We can actually get much higher than that. I think going forward. So about 3 to 5 frames per second.
Quick question. That's yep. Okay, thank you.
What did you want? And what?
Oh, I guess you could pop it.
That works.
Is everybody awake after that midday snack? Hello, my name is Kathy Skinner, and I'm the CEO and founder of Thrivers. 20 years ago, cancer came to my house when my dad was diagnosed with a rare blood cancer. And we all know someone, and the number of cancer survivors is growing. This year alone, by 2020, there'll be 18 million cancer survivors in the United States, with the total cost of cancer care, according to CMS, at $158 billion. There's exciting work happening in precision medicine here at Mayo Clinic and the University of Minnesota, but how are those fundamental findings getting their way into the hands of cancer patients? And we know that patients, what they do beyond a clinical setting matters. And I would argue that part of precision medicine is also social determinants of health and lifestyle behaviors. So technology solutions need to be engaging and empowering and really make a difference in the life of cancer survivors and their loved ones. And Thrivers fills this gap. So think about someone who you know who has had cancer. And after their cancer treatment, did they have pain? Did they have fatigue? Did they have a fear of recurrence of disease? Were they confused about what to do next? Well, the Thrivers platform has actionable modules that focus on physical activity based on research, nutrition with an AI component, mindfulness to reduce stress, community connection, and symptom and emotion trackers. I'm very excited about our development roadmap. We currently have multilingual with English, Spanish, and French, and we'll be building new languages in 2018. We also are focused on voice activation and chatbots to make the user interface much simpler, especially for people in older populations. Our revenue model focuses on these 5 key metrics. Some of the ones that are most engaging are industry partners, thinking of organizations like Caring Bridge, Impedimid, organizations that are in the cancer space, but not only payers and providers. And we're the team to make this all happen. I've been working with cancer survivors for the last 8 years, face to face, and I've had the privilege of working with almost 400 people. Eric Hoffman, our chief CTO, has been building technology platforms in the government space, and we have a fabulous team that also rounds us out. I have to give a special call out to this audience, to our board of advisors, Shirley Weiss, formerly of Mayo Clinic, and Brad Lehrman, a key part of the Minnesota Cup. So the opportunity is huge because there's an amazing convergence of policy, systems, and practices that is calling for cancer patients to become advocates and directors of their own outcomes. So we're marrying together personalized engagement and outcomes so that cancer survivors can do better. So the next time someone says to you, cancer came to my house, please tell them about Thrivers.
How many users do you have already?
We have less than 1,000 right now.
Are you generating revenue with those?
We are not. They're free users.
So I take it that this is an AI learning background type program that you're developing to be as interactive as possible with the cancer survivors.
It is.
And how do you test your success? And I guess in the end, what's your market? When do you have something to sell?
We currently have something to sell. We've completed 2 pilots at local nonprofits in the Twin Cities. We have a fully functioning product. We're out in the market selling right now to self-insured employers, payers, providers. So we're on the ground selling.
So it's a B2B play?
It's B2B to C.
Okay.
Yes.
Subscription model, software as a service. What do you?
We're a SaaS platform. So our ideal model would be selling to businesses. However, starting in December, if you go to our website, we are opening up a subscription model to cancer patients directly for a very nominal fee.
So that's an individual basis.
Correct.
Are you seeking funding right now?
Yeah, we'll take some funding. I'd be happy to talk to anyone about that. Oh, I got 10 seconds. What's the next question?
Do you want to see any of the folks that you've been talking to, the institutional, like insurers or payers?
Yes and yes.
Do they want to see outcomes before they'll sign on?
You know, we talk to the self-insured employers, and they understand what we're doing because it's framed as a wellness application or product specifically in the cancer space, and they already know that their employees who have cancer are the most expensive ones, and they can see when we show them the platform, and I can show anyone who wants to see it. I can open it up on my iPad after. They can see the value of it.
But do they want you to show it? It's very logical, and you did a nice job showing it, and it's very clear that that's the case. That will be helpful to them. Have they said, we love it, we'll sign up, but we want you to show us in some way, have an objective metric that it's helping those patients?
That would be really helpful. Yeah, thank you very much.
Right. We have our Keith coming down from Superior Medical Editing. Where's the clicker, Zach?
Hi, I'm Keith Kalmus. I'm the CEO of Superior Medical Editing. We are a publication and grant support company focused in the neurospace. So we started with the customer discovery process and found that our customer is the busy clinician who still is pressured by his institution to publish. And he has mounds of data or unfinished papers in his drawers that he's trying to get out, and that's where we come in. More recently, we've also realized that there's another customer out there, the doctor entrepreneur, who's looking for expertise in specifically SBR, STTR grant submissions, or at least someone who wants to be a physician entrepreneur. So this is an existing space. It's an existing market. We have competitors. What sets us apart is that we are an inch wide and a mile deep. The fact that we're focused on neuro and radiology means that we can have the world experts and really take the paper from data to publication with very little input from the physician. So the way we do this is our model is basically what we call the hierarchy of competence, where anything that shouldn't be done by an expert isn't. So we have KOL physicians and trained medical writers consult on the final draft, but all of the end noting and research checks and the table making is done by undergrads and med students. So this is a great time to be in the space. Over $500 million last year awarded in SBRS TTR. And we are perfectly positioned here in Rochester. I live half-time here in the cities. We're already profitable in our second year. We've done over 50 papers and worked on 7 grants so far. And we're a totally virtual company. We use all consultants, and we're ready and awaiting the incoming wave of physician entrepreneurs from Mayo.
How do you charge out your grant writing?
How do we charge? We do basically success-based. So we basically say, well, you meet our costs, and if we get you the grant, we'll take a portion of the 7% profit that you're allowed in the SBRS TTR program.
But they do compensate you for costs. So
Yes.
is it an hourly rate based on the expertise?
Exactly.
An MD
So
versus a student?
exactly. So the physicians are quite expensive, the undergrads are quite inexpensive, and the PhDs and med students and medical writers are somewhere in between.
Why only the neurofocus?
So my father, whom I started this business with, is an interventional neuroradiologist. So we do radiology, neurosurgery, neurology, and we're getting into orthopedics, which seems like the optimal next step because a lot of brain surgeons are also spine. It really allows us to be good at our jobs. If we have done papers from outside our specialty, and we thought we did a good job, but we didn't do the best. We weren't dominating that space.
Go ahead.
You've done 7 grants. What's the average that you've charged per grant?
Average probably be $4,000 to $5,000.
Seeking funding?
We're actually not currently seeking funding, but I'd love to sit down and have coffee with anyone who wants to talk.
Right now, what are your margins after cost of goods and everything on those?
As a percent?
Yes.
About 60.
Great, thank you.
What's the plan for scaling this?
So we could go 2 ways. We could try to, we have one large medical device company we work with right now. We could try and get all 5 in the space. Or we could try and get into other subspecialties. And I think we're just going to do both. Any other questions? Audience?
When you do the papers, do you automatically turn into authors?
Yes, so we follow the ICMJ rules. So if our people have made a substantial enough contribution to be authors, they're authors. If not, they're not. And we consult with the former journal editors that we have on staff to determine whether or not these people should be editors. Because there's kind of a fine line between editing and writing, so we just follow the ICMJ rules.
That's great.
Thank you.
All right. We have one special request because of the demo. Next one. Zachary gets us all set. Come down. So for those that are regulars in Walleye, you've seen the 3D printed prototype. So I'm actually excited because I haven't even seen this. So this is going to be great. 200 slides? 200 slides? Okay. All right. Thanks.
Slides.
All right. You ready? I'm Chad Atlasey. This is Pete Wall, and I'm going to say this wrong, just to get you. Yes, AJ Monopet. So we are the MindTech team, and we have a question for you. I want you to think about this.
Touchscreen chat.
Why it's not working right? Okay. Do you remember the first time you had a truly profound experience in person? Whether it was looking through a telescope at rings at the rings of Saturn, or looking under a microscope and seeing pond water and the life on that. That first time, that spark, that thing that maybe carried you through the rest of your life and changed your career path. Well, we want to help foster a fascination in STEAM: science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. We want kids to be obsessed by what they see. Problem is that today we are teaching our kids through Googling and through videos over the internet. And they're not getting that first-person, in-person experience. So we want to change that. You know, for example, do you remember when you were in high school or junior high and you were sitting waiting for a microscope to see what was going on in a classroom project, and the amateur wannabe Madame Curie was hogging the microscope and not letting anybody else look, and maybe you got about 10 seconds to look at it before you got pushed aside or the bell rang, only to find out the next day that Madame Curie had pink eye, and now you do too? It's kind of an extreme example, but it's kind of shows what we want to try to solve with our product. And that product is a microscope for everybody. What that means is that we are creating a microscope that would be distributed along with the iPad or Chromebook for every child in K through 12. And there's a lot going on in a very small package. This is a ruggedized microscope designed to be portable, so it's not only for the classroom, but it's also to be taken home, taken out to the park, the pond, and for kids to discover on their own and have their own experiences. It's a highly capable microscope. It's not a toy. Just because it's in something that looks like it could be a lunchbox, it's actually a very highly capable piece of technology, including up to 230 power. It is Wi-Fi enabled. It does 1080p video. We could do still frame and photo capture. It has a battery, a lithium-ion rechargeable battery system, so it can be taken out in the field. And we can also customize it for schools or for individuals, for that matter. There's usually a lot charge involved. So say your school wants your school colors and your school logo, we can put that on there with silkscreen in manufacturing. It's also highly stackable. It's very stable and takes a very small footprint in a closet in a school, which is important for storage. We're partnered, as Steve mentioned. Sorry to give him a hard time. With Inside Out. Inside Out has worked with us to develop the requirements to meet their curriculum needs. So Inside Out is a partnership with Mayo Clinic, Steve. It's a Mayo Clinic and University of Winona, Rochester, and Rochester schools. And my kids actually, I have two sons that are at Lincoln at Man, now Lincoln schools, that also went through this program. And they learned about the life cycle of a zebrafish and cell division and all kinds of other important things through firsthand experience. And they then wrote reports, and it became part of their whole curriculum at the school. And I think it was a very important experience for them to have. We want to create a microscope that allows them to carry this curriculum around the world. We've developed software to go along with our hardware, with our microscope. The software works through Wi-Fi or through USB to a Chromebook, iPad, iPhone, Mac OS, PC. We're multi-platform, and We just jumped ahead 3 slides. So it's touchscreen activated. So I can touch a point of interest and it creates a dot. Touch another point. It creates another dot because it's auto-calibrating. And I touch a third. And it gives me angles as well as measurements. So that way I know by looking at this that this zebrafish is roughly a little over a day old because of the 80-degree bend there. And that's all part of what's taught in the curriculum with Inside Out. It can also be used for looking at electronics, failure analysis, material analysis, anything that really needs a very highly capable, accurate microscope. So what's it worth? Now, there's a saying that something's only worth what somebody else will pay for it. So what we are shooting for is a $100 price point. We're wanting to get in the hands of everybody. This is a microscope for everyone. And we can do that at quantities of 10,000 or more. And the market right now is roughly, in the United States, there are 55 million kids in school this fall. And at $100 a unit, it's a $5 billion plus market. If we get a small part of that, we're doing great. Internationally, we're also looking at much more. Capitalization, we're actually already capitalized. We have parts being manufactured. And all the molds are paid for through our initial purchases that have already been made. So we're fully funded. We're working on a website right now for doing our e-commerce solution and developing a whole community around our products. Once again, I'm Chad Atlasey, Pete Wall, and AJ Monpet. We are Line Tech, and we'll take your questions.
You've probably heard Manu Prakash at Stanford that it's very much into frugal science, particularly not so much for maybe the U.S., but for third world countries. And then he's made certainly a microscope out of cardboard and,
yes.
and a lens for 25 cents. And I have to imagine that they have something like this in production or planning that might end up being $5 or $10.
Well, that's a piece of cardboard with a lens in it, and it's interesting to look through something.
But something more akin to this with an iPhone type.
Yeah, I've got a background and experience in manufacturing, product development, taking things from napkin sketch to manufacturing. And I know we're working with the Chinese supply chain right now, and they have a very, very difficult time getting the price point of something like this any lower than where it's at right now, especially in the volumes that we're going to be dealing with, hopefully in the near future. Even now, it's pretty affordable. You could dumb it down and yes, sell it for less. And there are plenty of toy microscopes on the market you can buy for a lot less than that. But you're going to get what you pay for, and it's not going to be Wi-Fi enabled, and it's not going to be able to link with the devices that they're using in their classroom to write their reports, to do their presentations, and it integrates into the whole system. So you're not going to get those capabilities.
Unfortunately, we're out of time, so if you want to talk to the group more, hopefully they'll be around at Collider.
All right, thank you.
All right, that's your time. Okay. Be there before 4 o'clock. Yep. Say your name
Thanks everybody for sticking with us. I'm Scott Nyberg. I'm a liver transplant surgeon here at Mayo Clinic, and my product is, the company's called Liver Cell Technologies, and our product is a liver support device for treating liver failure. The 3 co-founders, myself, Phil Verling, and Bruce Amiot. Phil has experience with startup medical device companies, and Bruce and I have been engineers working together first at the University of Minnesota 25 years ago and here at Mayo for the past 20 years. The problem is a big problem. It's called liver failure. It's the number 7 cause of death in the United States, number 5 worldwide. There's 1 million people die of liver failure every year. The Solution to liver failure is a liver transplant. There are plenty of problems. That's a shortage of organs, requires a major operation, immunosuppression for the rest of your life. So there's a huge demand for a liver support device. Similar to liver or kidney dialysis, this would be a liver dialysis machine, both to bridge patients to a transplant, but preferably to avoid a liver transplant. In the setting of acute liver failure, it's estimated that half of those patients, their liver can heal, regenerate, and you can avoid a transplant. The liver can be used for someone else and saves a transplant procedure for that patient. This is our device, the Mayo Spheroid Reservoir Bioartificial Liver. The main IP of this device, we have a patent that's been issued on this reservoir that can hold hundreds of grams of liver. Your liver is about a kilogram. This can hold 200 to 300 grams, so 20 to 30% of your liver, and can keep it going for days to weeks. This is our prototype device that was built here by Mayo Engineering, and we're currently in the process of raising funds to build this clinical grade device. We need about $2 million to build this device. There's a company up in St. Paul that'll do it, but they won't do it for less than that because it needs to be FDA approved. Our second IP was a serendipitous observation. I have an NIH-funded lab here at Mayo, and one night we put hepatocytes on a rocker, and we found the next morning that they spontaneously formed into these liver organoids. So we have a patent for this process. It's very novel. It allows you to scale up the device, use primary hepatocyte organoids to treat patients in liver failure, to do what a liver can do, but in a box outside the patient. We've had 3 successful large animal studies. One was funded by the Minnesota Regenerative Medicine Program. We were one of the first programs funded by that program. And we just finished that. Our first paper was published 2 years ago. This is a drug overdose model in pigs. And then at this year's liver meeting, which is the biggest meeting in the world, there's a presidential plenary session where they talk about the 6 most exciting emerging technologies in the world, and we had 2 of the 6 talks in that session. And these are our 2 presentations. One's on a non-human primate model, and the other's another pig model where we do an 85% hepatectomy. All the pigs die, and if they're treated with our device, they survive. This is a collection of that data from those 3 trials. So we've treated a total of 54 animals. The no-cell treatment control, they all die. The standard of care is called albumin dialysis, or the Mars machine. Mayo has one of these devices. You have a 6% survival in our studies compared to a 90% survival with our machine, which is highly significant. So our commercialization plan, we're currently trying to raise $2 million that I mentioned to build this device with a company called Minitronics up in St. Paul that works with Medtronic, works with Baxter. And once we've raised that money, later next year, we're going to start a phase 1/2 safety and dosing trial on patients at the 3 Mayo sites. And if we see a benefit in that 15-patient study, we'll move forward with a randomized prospective pivotal trial. It'll either be funded by a VC round, some type of joint venture, or acquisition by a big company named Baxter. We've met with companies like Baxter. They think we're still too early. There have been a lot of failed technologies in this field, but the hope is we have a device now that will be successful. Nobody's ever shown the data that I showed you with that kind of improvement in survival, so I'm optimistic. Essentially, in short, if I had liver failure, I would use this device to treat myself. I would never use any of the other systems that have been tested or developed. Thank you.
What's the source of the liver cells that you use?
These currently come from a barrier facility in Spring Point, Wisconsin, or New Richmond, Wisconsin, called the Spring Point Barrier Facility. So they're a pig that comes from an FDA-approved facility that's been approved for islet cell transplant, and they'll sell us the livers to digest and put in our machine. The second generation, I didn't have time to talk about liver cell therapies, which is our other device, which is a genetically engineered pig to grow human livers, where we transplant stem cells into embryos of this pig, and they're born with essentially replaced livers. That's really exciting, but that's sort of the future second-generation product.
And would the $2 million with Minitronics, would they actually cover everything in terms of the verification, validation, all of the design controls, all the way through to trial?
That's why it's so expensive. Exactly. That's, the second device will be much cheaper. It's that first device that has the package that has to go through the FDA. We've met with the FDA several times, both in a pre-IND meeting, pre-IND meeting to design these studies. And now they've essentially told us you need to have a new grade device before we can start treating patients.
What?
All right, Jamie. Walleyes, are you guys ready? We're going to go on up and deliberate. So we have another set of presentations for the Walleye Tank audience, while the Walleyes use their wisdom.
Hey, Justin says hi. Bananco, he says hi. Justin.
This works?
Bananco.
Okay.
I know Recon.
So hi everyone. Get this mic adjusted. So I'm JV Sunspach. I am the community manager at Collider Co-working, and welcome from me to Walleye Tank. Thanks, Jordan, for leaving. And that's a long story. So I want to take just 1 second to thank you all for being here as the Walleyes get out so we can say really bad stuff about them. So thank you for being here. One of the really special things about doing this Walleye Tank a few times is we get to hear a report from someone who's been through Walleye Tank previously and get a little update on what's going on. So today, are we good? So today we're going to let Allah come and talk a little bit about what Go Audio has been up to since the last time they pitched at Walleye Tank.
Okay, thank you. You'll have to bear with me. I'm getting over a cold, so this is like the loudest I can talk. My name is Ala Kolilat, and I'm a third-year PhD student here at Mayo, and I study genetic hearing loss. I'd like to thank the organizers for inviting my team to present some of the updates that we've had since we presented. We actually presented at the first Walleye Tank, and we're part of the junior anglers. Before I get into the details of our progress, I would just like to step back and give a little bit of context to those that haven't heard what Go Audio is. So 20% of Americans report some degree of hearing loss, making this a major public health concern. And one important fact for you to realize about hearing is that once you lose it, you actually can never get it back. So it's really important and imperative that we monitor our hearing as much as we can. We wanted to develop a way to monitor our hearing in a easy-to-use, portable, and accessible manner. And this is actually really important in the hearing field. And that's really why we developed Go Audio. And Go Audio is an easy-to-use iPad-based software that couples noise-canceling headphones. And the noise-canceling headphones are really important in this situation because they actually mimic a soundproof room, which is typically where a hearing test is conducted. So Go Audio is very important in helping to solve problems in the field. And these problems are that there's limited opportunities for screening throughout early childhood and even fewer in an individual's adult life. So we have newborn hearing screening, and then kindergarten, first grade, first few years in elementary school, kids are getting screened. But then once you get into early adolescence and then adult life, you really don't have any sort of yearly examination of your hearing. Secondly, hearing is a common side effect in other treatments. So patients that are getting any sort of chemotherapy that is cisplatin-based will experience hearing loss. So not only are you going through cancer and getting these treatments, you're also getting hearing loss that can't really be predicted. So we've actually spoken to some physicians in medical oncology that say we would love to have some sort of hearing monitoring technology so that we could monitor these patients as they're getting their cancer treatments. And lastly, there's limited access to audiological services. So sometimes you see those vans, large trucks that have hearing testing equipment inside of them, but those actually can't get to all the rural areas, especially. Also places that would just have a general physician. This would be a great add-on to a general physical exam. And that's really where Go Audio comes in. So since our Walleye Tank appearance, we've built the app. We've been granted IRB approval to work with patients, and we've actually tested 42 patients with Go Audio and also with the gold standard hearing test. Gold standard hearing test is just the hearing test that they would get with an audiologist. So I'll explain a little bit on how to read this figure. So this is an example from one of our participants. On the x-axis at the top, oh, there we go. You have the frequencies that we're testing. And on the y-axis, you have what's called a hearing threshold. So that basically means what is the softest sound that you can hear at this specific frequency. And in the hearing field, we always separate everything left ear and right ear. So the dotted line here are the results from Go Audio, and the solid line are the results from the gold standard. This shaded area indicates what would be considered normal hearing. So as you can see with the left ear, Go Audio and the gold standard hearing test aligned perfectly in terms of a normal versus abnormal outcome. So you can see that at 1,000 hertz, here and here are within the shaded region. And then at 8,000 hertz, both tests gave an abnormal reading. In the right ear, you can see very similar results that both Go Audio and gold standard hearing test at the lower frequencies gave a normal result, but at the higher frequencies gave an abnormal or what we would consider a refer outcome. One thing to know about in the hearing field is that between being tested on one day, let's say today, and then a month later by another audiologist, sometimes the results can differ by 10 decibels. So that would be, whoops.
It's the bottom button again.
Okay. That would be, 10 to 20. So anything within a 10 decibel range is considered acceptable. You can see at some of the frequencies here, we are within the 10 decibel range. So at 2,000 hertz here, we're 2 decibels off in terms of getting an exact threshold. And at some frequencies, we're at that greater than 10 dB. But in the right ear here, you can see that we're pretty much aligned at 2,000 and above. And I'll get to that point a little bit later. This is an example of another patient. So this patient, again, left ear, right ear frequency at the top, hearing thresholds on the y-axis, and you can see we pretty much align throughout except at 8K. And here, again, we're giving these normal versus not normal outcomes at every frequency, and we're aligning very nicely with the gold standard. So at this point, with the data we've collected, so I've only showed you 2 patients, but we have tested 42. And with the data we've collected, we can accurately say that the current version of the app is able to determine a pass or refer at most frequencies. So we've removed some of the invention risk that we initially had. Now we have a proof of concept, and this kind of wrapped up our phase 1 of our study. Moving forward, we're looking to refine the invention a little bit. Like I said, we're not able to give accurate hearing thresholds yet. We're just able to give a normal, not normal type of outcome. But we're looking to change a little bit the software and the hardware to be able to give an accurate hearing threshold at every frequency. We're also looking to identify what market segment we would like to target. And we're exploring several possible avenues of adoption, from applications of triaging, those needing formal audiological work, and early detection of hearing loss due to those cisplatin agents I talked about with chemotherapy, and also monitoring hearing across one's lifespan. I'd like to thank the Go Audio team. We have Dr. Ecker, Dr. Lisa Scimenti, who's a hearing loss expert, Dr. Gayla Poling, who's an audiologist and also has a PhD in psychoacoustics, and Dave Argue, who's our software developer. And I'll take any questions.
That's going to be a device that can be easily used at schools for testing kids, because that's a huge application for this. Because, yeah. I mean, the pediatric hearing screening is terrible in this country because half the kids don't have access to health care,
yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I mean, testing of vision is easy, But testing hearing is not that easy, and there are kids who underperform just because their hearing is bad. So I think that's a very important.
Yeah, and that's definitely one market we're looking to. We're hoping to make different versions of the app. So right now we're only, in our pilot study, we're only testing adults. But we'd like to make a sort of interactive version where we could test children's hearing in the school systems. Even in their physical exams. When a child comes in each year, they just you get your blood pressure, your heart rate, and your hearing is tested. Yeah.
How reliable is the different frequencies on the headphones?
So do you mean how reliable is the administration of the frequency? Like, is the 1K always 1K?
Well, right.
1
You're relying
kilohertz?
on the headphones, which is external. You're not going to make the headphones.
No, we're not making the headphones, no. But I think it's pretty accurate. Right now we're using Bose headphones. So I think that they've been established that these frequencies are accurate that go through the headphones. Yeah.
Have you looked at costs and then also commercialization partners and kind of your commercialization strategy to go to market with this?
Yeah, so that's a good question. We've thought about it. We haven't really delved too deep. We're looking into partnering with some sort of headphone company. We're also exploring different headphones. So we would like to be, not an app that's specific to one type of headphone. We'd like to be able to, once you open it up, you select the headphones you're using. But the key is that they have to be noise canceling. So we're still looking into it. Yeah.
What's your IP and how do you protect it?
Yeah, so that's a good question. Well, we've been in contact with Mayo Clinic Ventures, and we initially filed a provisional patent, but there's a group in the VA in Washington that has a very similar product, but they're actually not pursuing it for any commercialization. They really just wanted it to be able to assess veterans' hearing. But we're actually, our audiologist, Dr. Gayla Poling, is in collaboration with them on another project, so we're actually looking to partner with them. Any other questions?
Time frame?
Time frame for like when you can see this on the App Store?
When you would like to start selling this?
Well, I would like to start getting it available, or at least have it be available to patients coming into Mayo as soon as possible. In terms of having it open to the public, I would like to have it be at least have a couple more headphones, options available, so that it's not like so niche into one type of headphone. But hopefully by the time I finish my PhD.
When is that?
Maybe like 2.5 years. Yeah.
Do you have any competitors that you know of?
So there is one competitor in the space. It's called Shoebox, but there are a couple of problems with their access. So from what I understand, in order to actually have your results from the Shoebox company, you have to be a medical professional. So it's not really a hearing screening tool that we can use in our homes. It has to be in a center and it has to be controlled. So it's not really accessible to anybody.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
This is fun because the next presenter is me. So this opens a portion of Walleye Tank we like to call bait shops. So these are service providers and resources within our area that we all want you to know about and hopefully take advantage of. Now we'll see if I can pull this off at the same time. So I already said who I was, but my name is Jamie Sunsbach, and I'm the community manager at Collider Co-working. Collider Co-working is a traditional co-working space. Many of you have probably been in co-working spaces. We're Rochester's really only co-working space, and I think we're the best, and actually in some ways the worst, right? But we're learning every single day. So what are we? We provide three main things: physical space, for you to get your work done, for you to create your ideas. We create the programming, events like this, and many, many others. And we really are about connections. We want you to feel connected. We want you to get answers to questions that you may have at every level. And we think we have a pretty deep bench of connections to help you make that happen. And it's really those chances, those what we call random collisions that we think are really important, that makes you go from someone with just an idea to someone with, a very awesome business. And as something that we've talked about it as a community moving forward, we want to create entrepreneurial density. So many studies have shown by the Kauffman Foundation and elsewhere that entrepreneurial density is really a key success in predicting which businesses will succeed. So we're trying to create more of that entrepreneurial density here in Rochester. So this is the space. Some of you were there this morning. We think it's a pretty amazing space. We're also holding our after party at Collider tonight following the award ceremony here for Walleye Tank. And you can see this is what we are. We're an open co-working space where a bunch of different businesses are all working together in the same space. The other thing I want to talk to you briefly about is our entrepreneurial community, which I think is on the rise here in Rochester. So Collider provides a lot of opportunities for the entrepreneurial community. Amanda, who will be down here right after me, will talk a little bit about Rochester Rising in a video series that she's doing called Emerge, where she talks to local entrepreneurs. We host a lot of different events. I always say this is my favorite slide. It's, the age range of Collider. So you've got young, and I wish Keith was here because I'd give him a little bit of a ribbing, but maybe not so young, but still young at heart. And that's what we want to do. We want to create these great opportunities just to have fun and celebrate who we are in our community. We also do a lot of events in our community, and those range from events that we've brought here from our partnership with the Kauffman Foundation and 1 Million Cups and Global Entrepreneurship Week, our partnership with Techstars and Startup Weekend, all the way to bringing tech luminaries like Vic Indotra, former Google, very high up in Google, is responsible for Google Photos, Google Maps, and now is the CEO of a health tech company that's working with Mayo. We've had product launches. This is Mike Rowley, and he's launching ViewUp. Oh, it's right on the screen. Sorry, I was looking for the name. Which is a football practice technology that he has with his company GoRoute, which is a practice camera that is actually embedded in a football helmet, which can record 1080p video and do play calling all in a heads-up display. And then we do events to really celebrate our entrepreneurial ecosystem. I think this is Rochester Rising's first birthday party. So it's an opportunity for our community to get together and really celebrate our successes. So as I like to say, we have a lot of the raw materials happening in this city. Now I think it's time to start assembling those raw materials into something that we can really be proud of and be excited about in our city. But we still have a long way to go. We need everybody's help. We need the people in this room who want to contribute to the entrepreneurial community. We need you at events. We need you creating the companies and the ideas of the future. And that's what we're here to do, and we're here to help you. So again, my name is Jamie. I'll be your MC for the last few pitches here. And that's my information. And make sure to check out our newsletter. That's a weekly newsletter that highlights everything going on in the Rochester ecosystem. So with that, I will ask Amanda to come down and talk about Rochester Rising.
Hi, my name is Amanda Leitner, and I'm the founder of Rochester Rising. So Rochester Rising is an online-only news site that amplifies the stories of Rochester's entrepreneurs. So this was started last July, so we're about 16, 17 months old at this point. And I lost track of how many entrepreneur stories we've told, but when I checked in July, it was 100. So let's say over 100 stories of Rochester-based entrepreneurs in a wide range of industry, of course, science and health tech, but everything else from food, sports, music, art, social entrepreneurship, innovative retail, covering the range of industry that are necessary to make this a vibrant entrepreneurial ecosystem. So yeah, this is an online platform that tells the stories of Rochester's entrepreneurs. And I think what makes us different is that we really take a lot of time to understand the person behind the business and really create in-depth, insightful content about that person and how they're growing their business in Rochester. So we put out 3 articles every week, as well as a podcast that's really rapidly growing. And the whole purpose is to show that, yes, we have a young entrepreneurial community here, but there is an entrepreneur community here. People are taking risks and just starting something in this community. So this is an example of some of the types of stories that we tell. So kind of the bread and butter are these stories about local entrepreneurs, how they're growing their business. We also talk about entrepreneurial events, thoughts and initiatives, and specific ways that Rochester businesses can grow their company in this city. So we're very entrepreneurial as well and trying to develop ways that really engage people with our content. So one way that's been really successful is in series. So this Diverge series is one that we recently wrapped up, started in September, and did just a few weeks ago, where I talked to 4 different entrepreneurs in the community who all ended up being women, who left very long careers, diverged from these careers to follow their entrepreneurial passions in completely different industries. So they talked about, how they built up their skill set to do this, the successes, the struggles they had, and the ultimate outcome, to show that you can take risks and you don't have to be defined by anything or anyone. You can follow your passions, even though it is difficult. This is another series that we've done, kind of an ongoing video series called Emerge. The idea was to sit down with an entrepreneur in a community, have a low-key discussion about what's going on in that community at that point, and take a dive into something that they're an expert in. So this was the most recent one with Pasquale Presa, who runs the pizzeria down the street here. Maybe you've all been there at some point. But he talked about his journey as an Italian immigrant entrepreneur in Rochester. And the time we shot this, the Discovery Square groundbreaking had just taken place. So he talked about that and what that meant for him. And again, we're always trying to do new things, always trying to reach a number of people in the community to share these stories. So we recently just did the very first print magazine. It was self-published, short run, distributed them out in the community. Hopefully some of you got one of them, but if not, they're all digital on our website. And finally, this past year, we've also been trying to create some educational materials for the community. So we developed this roadmap to the Rochester entrepreneurial community. It's only digital at this point, but it's on our website. So it addresses questions of how do you connect to the community? So what meetup groups should you be going to? What dedicated events are there? What angel groups are there? Business subsidies? What venture competitions like Walleye Tank are of interest to people who want to be more involved in entrepreneurship and innovation in Rochester? So that's all I have for you today. So really the message I want to drive home is that we do have a community here. It's growing every day. And we're kind of here to share the stories of the risk takers, people doing something different and creative in our community. So thank you.
Thanks, Amanda. Now someone who's going to do double duty. So representing Ready and the Southeast Minnesota Capital Fund, Xavier Fergola.
Thank you, Jamie. Okay, good. So you have an idea, we're talking about concepts, and how do you get it funded? So I want to talk to you about 2 funding sources that are available to some of you when you get to the right stage. And I'll take 2 slides to talk about the different ways of funding companies through the life stage of different of a startup. And one of the questions that I get asked very, very often is, I have this new idea, it's going to cost $100 million. Introduce me to a VC who's going to lend me, who's going to write me a check for $100 million. Well, the real answer here is probably that's not going to happen just like that. The first money you're going to get is from you, your own pocket. And I found this nice graph that illustrates some of that point. So if I get... So the first money comes from your own pocket. That's normally like $50,000 on average. And a lot of people get that. The next pot of money you'll probably get and you'll need to start your company is your inner circle, friends and families. They put less money in aggregate to less companies. But if you get, say, 6 or 10 of them plus your $50,000, you can do some damage. After that, you may get a chance to engage some angel investors, but look at how the percentage drops. So 1 in 100 company, only 1 in 100 company can have a chance to get some angel investing money. Again, in aggregate, that could be a lot of money. Like 10 of those can get you $750,000. And if you get it through all those phases, you might get a chance to pitch in front of venture capitals. They invest in 1 in 2,000 companies. In aggregate, they write very large checks. These are the graphics to illustrate when each of these two funds that I'm going to talk to you come in play. So from the I have an idea to I have a large established company with customers and revenue, there's many stages in between. So most of the ones we've seen today are probably in that stage, like discovery and validation. And here you see how some of them come into place. So founders and grants come at a very early stage. Grants, founders, then you add friends, family, and economic development funding in the validation stage. Think of it like prototype. And then when you already have customers, final product, you're building up your company is when angel funds come in and seed funds. And when you're growing your company, you already have customers, but you want to hire more of a sales force to do more things is when the VCs come in play. So the first of those two funding sources is the Rochester Economic Development Fund. It's a $5 million fund. It's public money that comes from the taxes that the spending that happens in Rochester. The organization who I work for, Ready, manages and oversees the fund. There's a committee process, but at the end, we have invested in 15 companies in this community. That comes from an opportunity pipeline of about 43 opportunities that in aggregate have asked about $6 million. So we do 1 in 3 investments, and that's 4 years worth of activity we've done, and it translates into 3 or 4 investments a year, total aggregate of investments per year about $400,000. So think of it as $100,000 per company, but there's a huge range. With some of these portfolio companies, we've put $250,000, some of them we put as little as $15,000. The criteria, or when you should come see me about this fund, well, the criteria of why this fund exists is to create local jobs, and companies have to be based or significantly present in Rochester. And Rochester and only Rochester. Neighboring communities don't count. And we make decisions based on that criteria plus the likelihood of repayment of the investment we make. When you should come and contact us, when if you have a prototype, a proof of concept, or some preclinical data, and you have hopefully a final product, but that's not necessary. We've done investments before, but depends on the actual field that we're talking about, and you're having some customer interest. If it's medical, could be earlier than that. This is the current portfolio that we have. Those are 15 companies. We had 3 exits. It's in total is $1.5 million of combined investment we put, and these companies have in turn then gone and raised about $60 million. Interestingly enough, about 3/4 of them are women or minority owned. 3/4 have sales, so they have moved from a point where they were just a prototype to now having sales, and they have created 72 local jobs, which is one of the metrics we use for those investments. The other fund that a colleague of mine was supposed to come and present but wasn't able, so that's why I'm presenting both funds, is the newly created Southeast Minnesota Capital Fund. This is an actual angel private fund, so there's less component of creating jobs. It's more about return on investment. We launched in just this September. We're still taking investors. We're at 1.4 with 40 investors and growing. And we've analyzed 22 deals so far, but have not made any investment just yet. So you see that this is much more, scrupulous or looks stringent than the Economic Development Fund, because the returns here is, the goal here is returns first. At the end of the life cycle of this fund, we're looking to would have had like 15 investments and put between $50,000 to $100,000 in each company and have 3/4 of the fund reserved to make follow-on investments on those companies already part of the portfolio. The criteria again is opportunity, returns on investment. We will do medical and non-medical, but a lot of the people that has invested in the fund comes from the healthcare. So healthcare comes more understanding healthcare's and business models around healthcare comes more natural to us. And we would give probably a preference to the companies if they're located in Southeast Minnesota, but that's not an exclusion because we want specifically to have non-healthcare businesses come in the portfolio to diversify a little bit. When should you come and seek funding for this particular source of funding? A little bit farther along, you would have had ideally product and customers. If it's medical, that doesn't apply, but you would have a final product and some sort of a path towards getting some regulatory approval. If it's non-medical, hopefully you have your first customers and you're seeking funding more for growth. And going back to that slide I showed you in the beginning, the EDF, Rochester Economic Development Fund, comes a little bit earlier than the Angel Capital Fund. The EDF is at the late stage of the validation phase. The Rochester Angel Fund, Southeast Minnesota Capital Fund, comes more at the earlier phase of the customer creation. That's my contact information, and if you want to apply to some of those fundings, we have a guest profile. Just search for Southeast Minnesota Capital Fund. Thanks.
I don't see Walleyes up there yet, so I think we're making good time. Do you have? Oh, you can come on down. So a great partner that's sort of emerging in our region is Frederickson and Byron, and they have stepped up in a big way to support what we've done in many ways, from Startup Weekend to Walleye Tank to many other things recently. And we have Ryan here, right, to talk a little bit about what Frederickson and Byron does.
Sure. I can't believe you're closing this with the lawyer, but I will be brief. Okay, good. I also seem to have the shameful distinction of being the only one that does not have a PowerPoint, and I brought my notes just in case I totally forget who I am and where I'm from, but I'm not going to splash them up on the screen because that would just be further embarrassment. Frederickson and Byron is a full-service law firm, 275 lawyers, primarily based in Minneapolis. 90% plus of us are in Minneapolis. We've got offices in Des Moines, Fargo, Bismarck, and Shanghai. We are a full-service firm in that we're multidisciplinary, so sort of up and down the dial of anything that you might need. I co-chair our capital markets and securities practice group, and so what that means is I work with companies like many of the presenters here and help them raise money. Most of the time, you would see me on Xavier's graph that he threw up there at the venture capital stage, sometimes even at the friends and family stage. When Dr. Ecker called and asked if we would be a sponsor today, we really, the four of us that are kind of on our Rochester business development task force really fell all over ourselves to do that. We've had a long relationship with the Mayo Clinic. Frederickson was founded as a healthcare-based law firm, and that has really carried through to today, despite the fact that we have, practice over many industries. That healthcare, life sciences, med tech focus, is still a big part of Frederickson. And 3 or 4 years ago, when we started talking with Jamie, Xavier, and others down here, and those in the Mayo Venture office about Mayo's support for their entrepreneurial program, we, along with some of the contacts we have and some of our other collaborators down here, with RSM, with some lawyers that we know at Dunlap and Seeger, that we collaborate with all the time, we started to represent some of the doctor-owned companies that were spinning out Mayo-based and Mayo-owned technology. And we've got 6 or 7 of those clients now. So this is a fantastic event. We are very happy to see it continuing and keeps getting better and better. And we're very pleased to be a sponsor, and certainly have met a number of you today. I'll be at the event after this if any of you want to talk to a lawyer.
So I don't know how many of you know, but I'm a North Dakotan, and it's the first time I've heard the word Bismarck and Shanghai in the same sentence. That's pretty awesome. So last but certainly not least, still not back there, good, is Chris Shad, who's representing Destination Medical Center, and probably more specifically, Discovery Square.
Oh, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chris Shad, and I'm the guy that gets to follow the lawyer. So that's great. I only have a couple of slides. I just want to take a couple of minutes of your time to really give an update, cast a vision, and then give an update on where we're at with Discovery Square. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about Destination Medical Center as an initiative, other than to say if you want more details, I can connect with you afterwards offline. But DMC is really a statewide investment in the city of Rochester to support the city of Rochester as Mayo Clinic grows and adds tens of thousands of jobs over the next 20 years. The state of Minnesota said we're going to help invest in Rochester by helping grow the infrastructure to support that growth. And so there's a DMC Economic Development Agency. I'm a strategy consultant who works with the DMC team to help them grow a portion of that. And there's an entire team of people that are working on the DMC initiative. And like all good initiatives, we have a mission statement to become a global destination for health and healing. For those of you from Rochester, you might recognize this image of the proton beam therapy facility being built. At some point, I need to get the data on the number of cement trucks that were bringing cement in for the number of hours. It was days and days and days, 24/7. But that's the kind of investment that Mayo is making in Rochester, and now the state is making in Rochester. This is the district of DMC. Those pin drops represent various projects that are underway since 2013 when the legislation is passed. You're seeing the signs of that as you drive around Rochester now, especially, downtown Rochester. Cranes are going up, holes are going in the ground. Half a block that way, the Mortensen building is going in. That's the new Life Sciences building. And that's the piece that we want to talk about just a few minutes here. This is a rendering of what the Discovery Square, the first new building in Discovery Square, is going to look like. On the left, that's looking northward. Down here in the bottom right corner, that's looking from the Hilton Guggenheim parking lot southward, 89,000 square feet. And if we take what's happening today and look fast forward about 20 years, because I would say I would agree we've got an emerging, vibrant, yet relatively small entrepreneurial community in Rochester. But let's fast forward 20 years and see what that looks like in 20 years, where we have in Discovery Square a huge density of life science companies, healthcare companies, med tech companies, large companies, small companies, covering approximately 2,000 square feet, because that's what the absorption rate shows we can do over the next 20 years. So we've got a density of healthcare companies across all sectors of healthcare. We've got an ecosystem that has mentoring, and it has programming, and it has education, and it has opportunities for people who don't know how to start a business, who want to start a business, learn how to do that. That we've got collaborative relationships with universities that are bringing students here, internships and sabbaticals here from their faculty, and postdocs here that are doing work not only in Mayo Clinic but in the businesses themselves and learning the business side of science. And we have relationships with research clusters around the world so that we can share people, that they can send their businesses here and we can send their businesses. Our businesses can go there, they can come here, because we have these relationships with these international clusters. And we have access to capital. Capital is critical. We have access to capital for all stages, from pre-seed all the way to VC and everything in between. And we have a lot of capital. And companies with money know we are here because we have this vibrant economy. That's all what we want to do in Discovery Square. And on top of all of that, it's a live, work, play environment. There's retail shops, there's housing, and there's technology businesses that are functioning here. That's the vision for Discovery Square 20 years from now. And we're well on our way with things like this, but in 20 years, this doesn't fit in this venue here, right? This has to be down at the Civic Center. This has to be someplace much bigger because there's just so much going on. That's the vision that we have. Where we are right now is current state, groundbreaking on the Mortensen building that's going in across the street. That was November 2nd. Ribbon cutting on that building will be in the spring of 2019. So we've got about 18 months and that building will open. Tenant recruitment is underway. There's a tremendous amount of activity going on in tenant recruitment. Mayo Clinic is going to be one of the tenants in the building with 30,000 of the 80,000 leasable square feet. Regenerative medicine is going to be in there, diagnostics is going to be in there, and imaging is going to be in there. And we've had conversations with literally dozens of companies about being in. They're excited. It's a slow process to bring companies into Rochester or grow them in Rochester, but they're coming. And you'll be seeing public announcements about those coming soon. You're going to be hearing soon about some new space that we have coming available for smaller companies. It's in the sub-district. Somebody gave us a building, and we've got a management plan in place for that building. We just need to get the lease deals taken care of, and then we can start putting companies into that building if they need relatively inexpensive space. We're deep into our planning for 2018 activity, which is really teeing up 2019 when we cut the ribbon on the Mortensen building. And we've also started having early conversations about the next building. So not the building that we have a hole in the ground for, but the building that follows after that. So there's activity going on. A lot of it is behind the scenes. More public information is going to be coming out soon as we have these companies that we can announce that are moving into the building, as new space becomes available, transition space, I'll call it, until the Mortensen building is open. So that's my update for what's going on in Discovery Square. Thank you.
Now this is the point where I get to stall. Walleyes must really be thinking hard. So take a few minutes, get to know your neighbors, shake some hands, trade some business cards. Either that or I sing you a song.
Oh, God, hi.
Don't want.
No.
I can tell you a catch with nest.
Well, I guess we should. Oh, yeah. I take every chance I can.
I'm gonna be in the bait shop for next 4 days.
Why did they pay me?
Well, I already told you. I couldn't get in on this time, but I need to be the judge.
What's the view of everything? It's easy to get
Hard.
Companies with shoes hate fun.
Yes. Yeah, more sense. I know the Recom News guide.
Yeah.
All right, the easy ones are. Which ones did you like?
Yes. Don't listen.
One day they had no problem.
So I'm actually remember what this was. Well, I know. I was like, good for you. It's sponsored by.
Well, you.
I think though, I need to get back to Minneapolis.
Yeah.
No, sort of.
I need to get down here though.
The technology
I've been applying for SBIRs.
Guys,
Yeah,
I signed up for your newsletter.
So how big is your revenue?
Or
Just like
Jordan. And there's a technology that they presented that I want to take out of Mayo. But if I'm going to take it out, I want to keep it down here as being based here. And
$60.
That's pretty cool.
oh, I know. But I know that though. So that's why, Jordan's helping me with some of the companies that I need to get in.
I don't know.
But if I'm going to take anything out, which one technology I'm working on, I'm going to keep it based out.
You guys really do the job?
Yeah, I think maybe I didn't look at
got an oil light.
How many people are going to move down?
This is good.
Got a late oil light.
So, like, I mean, they're the same as the Ghost Rider.
Gastric surgery.
The ICMJ.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I don't know if it's a U.
I didn't really understand. Well, they make it the market builder.
It is. Yep.
That's something I used to work.
Yeah.
I wanted you to work.
Found a home? Yeah. Because, I mean,
Well, you have to have me around if you want me to take your babies and nurture them so they grow.
Got 2 children?
I want more than that. I want as many as you'll give me. I mean, I know you have a couple already, but no. I gotta drive back. I gotta pick my daughters.
Can I just say I'll drop it off?
No, I want to, I'll be down here more. It's just, we raised $125,000 last
So how do people?
So I've been traveling a lot. Hired my president, hired my CTO full time. taking on some new devices and out of state. Okay. Yeah, we're working on it.
I mean, yeah, but cool.
Like Thomas the Train.
I figured it's probably a quick fix. You know.
Basically. I gave him my card.
So you basically
you guys have a
biology conference.
I work with over 100.
Me, do something real.
I think you guys would be mini gamers for our investors and Match.com. So I'm a part of the startups team. We have 11 in our accelerator.
Yeah, because it's hard.
I like your idea. There's but I mean, there's a lot. Have you thought about?
Good.
I helped a company.
I arrived late. Did you present? No, I didn't present. I'm in the real estate world. I didn't come to hang out with people that know.
We have
For yesterday's thing?
My brother and my sister.
And
Mom.
I didn't know about it. Jeez. I guess it was. What thing? Well, there you go.
Okay, so,
I gotta tell Bill. Oh, that was the thing. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Okay. Yes. I came in the tail end. Got it. I was.
I will send a Manny Bill phone. So every technology is different.
Nothing to do with it. I mean, I'm just curious.
Have relationships and access.
Back to lab.
Oh wow. Okay. I gotta go back to.
So then your job is to kind of like. Capital generated demand, but finding the talents would be like, how do I find it?
Yeah, our food truck idea.
Really?
So we evolved into something close to what you were saying. We did cheap people. So we are just called outsourcing our Airbnb for home. And so now you get like this little container. And people will cook, and then we will put in contact with people.
That school's actually harder to get.
Yeah, there's not that many.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, so I just wanted to show you.
I have like contract working, yeah.
We have a website and we have the containers and we have clients.
Yeah, that's what I think.
I love it. So my
I mean, they're very generic. They're like this big plastic microwave safe.
like
And that's also how we regulate like standardized portions. So people will
stuff
build
like
a
dyslexic,
container.
like my son.
They'll bring them here because most of our clients are right here in Vail. We'll pick them up and then we'll leave it in a
Then
fridge.
feeds it to scanner and just like sends it to
right now,
India, and it comes back.
There is an email list.
We sent it to all the CEOs. And so then when I wouldn't
Shoko.com. XOC.
I wanted like a data that I could only but I know it exists.
Maybe a picture of
Ironically, but
what
no
it
one
is
would
and
give
price that you want. And the next day, make a big email to like an email list.
girls from.
Eventually, we would want it to be an
And so I sent the whole damn book to India. With 2 grand. It was just like, I got it done. I was like, I want it. So we could kind of like manipulate it and all that kind of stuff. So
books get paid via vendor.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that.
Action is a credit card or a debit card.
I see people. I see walleyes.
I'd look at how you could outsource.
How'd you do that?
stuff too,
That's good. All right, everyone, if we can take our seats.
That's better than yours.
Probably.
Your accent wasn't bad.
That's trying to keep it kind of contained.
It seems
Glad we had a little time for networking.
They are so. Oh, come on. And then college. What is that?
And speaking of networking, there's going to be some extra networking afterwards, just a reminder.
What's your measure? Yeah.
Collider co-working, 5 o'clock. There's beer and pizza, the magical entrepreneurial combination.
What is that? On call.
Yeah, I got married.
On call.
I hear
in the
rustling
middle of the
down
night,
there.
India. Send it out.
Yeah, there's Steve.
Wifery. Yeah.
I hear lots of clapping, so I hope things went well with the bait shops and the presentations. All right. So we had a wonderful discussion. Thank you to the Walleyes and friends. So in our 3 classes, we actually had a really great conversation. So in the junior anglers division, the reason we took so long is we don't have a winner. Okay? We have 2 winners. We have co-winners. Team Brazen and make sure Team Electronic Intrathecal Guidance. We have co-winners. Let's give them applause. Okay. What's even more exciting, so we have, can you pull it out? Pull it out. Zachary can show it. We will get a second of these one-of-a-kind prizes. You can hand it out, the lure. The point of the lure is you need a big lure to get a big walleye. So as you're building your team, you want a big lure because you only want big walleyes. But more importantly, you both get $10,000 Mayo awards towards building your products.
That's cool.
So congratulations. So Team Brazen. Well, where's Jason? Jason is where you're going to get your PAU. So that's the most important. He's going to be very popular with you guys. Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. I really want to thank Gabriel and your team. You know, you all did a wonderful job and really showcasing and moving forward with your businesses. Okay. For the reelers, we have a winner. It was a consensus winner, Concepts by Harshman. Come on down. Okay, while you come on down, in addition to this wonderful large walleye to go on your wall, as nice as that is, we really, truly appreciated you as a wonderful, I'm going to take your hand. Thank you. As a true entrepreneur, inventor, you're going to get an Office of Entrepreneurship Gold Prize. Our job is to help you take your wonderful prototypes and deal with the process, whatever needs to get done for filing and process, dealing with Mayo Clinic Ventures, or dealing with the process. So we will be there for you as you move and develop your terrific product to market. So thank you. Thank you very much. From the professionals, because we also really couldn't decide on everything in terms of priorities, we have 2 prizes. The number 2 prize, but I'm not sure, is MindTech. I want the Walleyes to tell me who of you are willing to buy the product right now. You were telling me right now. So you've got customers. MindTech has won customers. So you should take their checks. So that's awesome for MindTech. But we also have a prize for you. Frederickson and Byron has an award for legal expenses, and they are willing to work with you. We had 2 prizes from them. You guys won one of them to think about what needs to get done for bringing that forward. So thank you very much. Thank you, MindTech. Okay, and the grand prize winner goes to Liver Cell Therapies. Is Scott here? Scott? All right, Scott. This is our walleye tank, traditional. This is an upper Minnesota, custom-made metal walleye. It's out of northern Minnesota.
Picture. Smile.
Yes. Okay, but more importantly, Scott, you have won the grand prize for our walleye tank. So this year, it comes with a mix of pieces. So one, it's a straight $2,000 prize provided by Frederickson and Byron. That's a straight cash. We're going to get the check for you. We have Jamie. Where's Jamie? So it's Jamie. It's 3 months at Collider for your business development. So you are in the Collider space. You have opportunities to grow with your team. What am I missing?
Frederickson Byron in kind.
Oh, you get the Frederickson Byron in kind support for getting things launched in terms of any business development that you may be missing. You're in fundraising mode. They're going to help you with that space. And then from the Office of Entrepreneurship, it's what we call our Platinum Prize. We're sitting down and saying that since you have been externally validated, we will do what we can to help you needs to get done for bringing your product to market. So thank you, Scott. Thank you for everybody. I want to thank everybody in the audience for coming today. There is a post-event meeting at Collider. I hope that you guys get a chance. Some of the walleyes will be able to be there too. Many of these wonderful entrepreneurs come. Is it pizza?
It's pizza.
It's pizza and free pizza. And beer. So thank you, everybody. Thanks for making Walleye Tank a successful event again here in December. Thank you.
All right. Sounds good.
Really? Oh my gosh.
So I'm pretty open next week.